because they were the first people to be taken across the Atlantic. And they're pissed off about this, and they're trying to claim it as anti-Black, as me speaking on African people and this and that. But the truth of the matter is that's where it started. Now, did I say slavery started with us? No. Slavery started in Africa by taking Africans to Europe, but that's not the transatlantic slave trade. Going across from Africa to Europe is not transatlantic. It's not. It's going literally across the Atlantic to the Americas. That is transatlantic. And what happened is the first people that were taken across the Atlantic were the Tainos. They were taken first. And then when they were dying over in Europe, because they were succumbing to diseases, and when they were dying over here, when the Spaniards were bringing their diseases over here, they started bringing Africans over here to take over what indigenous people. Did that stop indigenous slavery? No. Indigenous people have been enslaved all the way up until after emancipation.
And
the Emancipation Proclamation, 2 years after that, indigenous people in the Southwest were released.
And that's
you see what I'm saying?
The Syndicate, I don't know whether it's on purpose or not, but they are actually actively performing indigenous erasure at the same time. They say they're not, but you know what, they are.
I would like Daisy to speak.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Daisy.
No, you're good, guys. Honestly, I don't even know what happened. You know, I'm severely medicated, so I got only up to a certain part and fell asleep. And I just woke up to screaming and a partial argument. I've seen a little bit of people talking. I seen you apologize, Chop upset. And then I heard a little bit more arguing, everybody calm down. And then OHF started speaking. He was speaking, saying that, you know, he lets people share their stories. And then I fell back to sleep. So I don't really know what all happened in between.
Well, there was an elder. There was an elder that came in there and told their creation story. And Sutek, Sutek started going at not going at him specifically, but he wanted more information about him.
He was I'm gonna be real. He was gaslighting in the comments. He was
he asked so before I fell asleep, when he was speaking and he asked a question, I answered him. And after that, I was just laying there because a lot of the times, like I said, especially now, I don't even really have my phone a lot of the times. I'm listening because I heard the story. I heard the story that the elders, told, and it was beautiful, And then so I'm laying there, and like I said, I seen it, and I answered his question, and then I laid my phone down, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, I heard just people screaming. I heard was straight screaming. I know one of them was Chop, and I heard like 2 or 3 other voices. I had no idea what was going on or what happened, and I don't even know that
I'll give credit.
I fell asleep again and woke up in somebody else's life and went back to
Well, I gotta give La Chapa credit. She stood up to them and basically stood her ground and about them respecting, the elders in our creation stories. So I gotta give her credit for that. That was badass. But that's why the screaming was, because she basically was, be respectful. That's all it is, and it got to the point where no, fuck that, and they didn't want to respect that.
Right, because at the end where she said, I'm sorry, Native, go ahead.
Newton said, fuck that, everybody's the same. And we're like, no.
Oh, no. So, I heard the end where Chop...
Matter of fact, they brought up... sorry.
You're good, baby, I'm sorry. And Chop was just saying, all I was trying to say, like when I got the end of her speaking, she was like, all I was trying to say is just be respectful. That could have waited till the end, and then you could have asked Wolf. And then she was pretty calm at that point when I was kind of in chat speaking with everybody. I was still, like I am now, quite groggy, but I spoke a little bit. I don't know if I spoke to you, Nativemamaz, but I know you guys probably see me in the chat a bit, and then... That's when I was kind of falling back in OH. Then after Pop spoke, and then I was out of there.
Well, the thing of it is that what the syndicate is trying to do is they're trying to push a false equivalency, right? So they're saying if the pretendians, and they're trying to use the race card on this, if the pretendians, because they're black people, can't use their creation stories, then you guys can't use yours. Well, first of all, the pretendians are making up creation stories and making up stories about their origins anyway. We all know this. It's all made up. So to try to make it seem like they have real creation stories is a false equivalency to what natives actually have as creation stories. The second thing is that they're not understanding is that our creation stories are scientific in nature. It's indigenous science. Our creation stories are explaining evolution. They're explaining science. Now, did we have the scientific terms we use today? No. So because of that, that's why they're called creation stories. And it's the creation of human beings, not just of our people, but of humans in general, of the universe in general. And when you actually dissect it and realize that these are metaphors or analogies to what science is, we actually are explaining evolution in that way. So when we're saying, when they're taking it as literal, that we're saying we sprung up from the ground. No, we're not saying that. But what we are saying is that the elements from the ground, when we say some of our creation stories say we come from the sky, some of them say we come from the water, some of them say we come from the stars. When you actually dissect it in a scientific point of view, what we're saying is that yes, every living thing on this planet comes from the stars, if you understand the Big Bang Theory, right? So that's what that is. What do we need to grow our food, and what do we need to survive off of is the earth, the dirt. So that is how we survive as human beings, and how other plant life and animal life function. What do we need to survive? We need water. So when we're saying that we come from the water, it's not that we're literally sprouting out from the water. It's the fact that we need water in order to survive. We need air when we come from the sky. These are all things that are explaining evolution and science, and how microbes turned and evolved, and all of these things evolved over billions of years, and what the earth became, and how eventually human beings became. So they'll sit there and push the scientific ideas, which are rooted in fact, in theory, but and have a lot of facts to them. But then they disregard our creation stories as indigenous science.
Well,
And that's the part that everybody is having a problem with, is that they're trying to make this false equivalency. So now they're calling us pretendians, and they're calling natives pretendians, because we're using creation stories as a way to validate the fact that natives have always been here. And the science also acknowledges that natives, as who we are today, have always been here. We have never been anywhere else in the world. Now they want to conflate that with migration patterns of humans, and that's disingenuous. It's intellectually disingenuous when they do that, by then claiming that Asians are our ancestors. They're not. Those terms didn't exist. Those racial concepts didn't exist. Those cultures didn't exist 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 years ago. So what they're doing is they're conflating racial concepts of today to early human beings. And that is the problem that they're not getting. And I've told them this several times, and they want to sit there and deflect and move away from that, because they know that they're perpetuating white supremacist pseudoscience when they do that. Because if I ask them, prove to me the cultures of these people 30,000 years ago, prove to me the languages of these people 30,000 years ago, prove to me the phenotypes of these people 30,000 years ago, they can't. But they want to continuously say, you guys are of Asian descent. We're not.
Right.
And that's what they're not understanding, and that becomes the problem, because I'll land with this. This becomes the problem because it's not just the pretendians, because the pretendians have always said we were Asian. They've always done this, but it's no longer just the pretendians doing this. I am seeing African people from the diaspora across the board, African Americans, Caribbean Africans, Africans from Africa, now sitting there saying, well, you guys are descendants of Asians. You guys are, they're doing this now. And that is perpetual harm to Native Americans. And it's a white supremacy outlook on Native Americans. And when we try to tell them what white supremacists have done, they've been pushing this exact same rhetoric that they're pushing, that they've done this to us before in the past in order to make claims to our lands and say that these lands are not ours. We're just a bunch of people who migrated here. Therefore, we can't claim it as ours. That's the harm that they're perpetuating, and they're not getting that. And they refuse to listen, and they overspeak us on those things.
So
Okay, rebellious. Rebellious.
I'm sorry, mamas. I just had a quick question for you and Native mamas. Last night, didn't OOH pretty much agree to that kind of the same thing of what she said, right?
La Chapa? Yeah.
That I mean, I'm sorry, I'm
Correct.
trying to remember. My memory is not the best either.
Yes.
About the stories being BS, and we know that they're BS. So how can you kind of do the same thing? Like, didn't he say something?
Oh no, he didn't. No, he went on the African route. Basically, we have ours, they have theirs. Leave it at that.
But I'm just saying. I mean, when it came to origin stories, knowing that Pretendians' origin stories are crap, like you can't. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what I thought. Okay, I'm just trying to get some clarification. I apologize. I wasn't trying to confuse anyone.
Okay, so
No,
Rebellious,
yeah, he knows that.
Rebellious would like to respond to BGP.
Sure. There he is. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Rebellious. I'm an African descent. I got family from Jamaica, and I'd say yes, there are pretendians living in Jamaica that claims that they are indigenous to Jamaica when they're not. And when I ask them, say what is your lineage and where your ancestors from, they will tell me straight up saying that my ancestors are born in Jamaica, and they were there for hundreds and thousands of years, and they're the Tainos here, which they are living in Jamaica, and I told them, say, if that is so, then why you have more African features than a native feature, right? They don't want to answer my question. And every time I ask them questions, they get very, very upset. They get fed up and say I must not talk about those things. And I told them, saying that the reason why you only said it because you probably heard about Africa and you probably seen the videos and photos, seen how African people live. And since the white man pointed at your culture, which is the same culture that came from Africa, right? You guys are proudly calling yourself the best Jamaicans that always have the better culture, where your culture is popular to the world, all because of Bob Marley, and that is the truth. And they don't wanna listen to that, so they get very offended by that and say that's not true. I say it is true, right? And
Didn't he claim his indigenous and African roots both? He had both, didn't he?
Who?
Bob Marley. He had both indigenous and African roots.
No, you don't have those roots. He only has the African and the European roots. That's what he does have. A lot of Jamaicans are mixed with Europeans and native Jamaicans.
I thought Bob Marley was. I thought he was.
I think he had some native ancestors, but very few. But he did work, when it came to his music, he did work with natives and had inspiration from certain Caribbean natives when it came to some of his music. So he drew inspiration from both African and indigenous music when he created his music, and he said that before, I believe. So, but a lot of people, even in the Caribbean, they may have a few ancestors, just like even people in Mexico, right? We have some ancestors, a few ancestors. I have a couple that are African, but that doesn't make us, like I've said, that doesn't make me African. I didn't grow up in any kind of African culture. Is there some influence in my Mexican culture that has African influence to it? Sure. But is it majority African? No. Our culture is majority indigenous. And then what was forced upon us by the Europeans, that the language, the Christianity, and then obviously some of these white supremacist ideologies like misogyny, the nuclear family, those types of things that some people participate and practice in. Those are things that were incorporated into the assimilation of people across the entire diasporas, right? All these diasporas that colonizers colonized, right? So we do have aspects of European culture embedded into our cultures, but it's that white supremacy supremacy portion of it, which is where we from these diasporas across the board who were colonized need to decolonize from those things. And a lot of people just think it's the racial construct we need to decolonize from. It's the misogyny, it's the anti-LGBTQI hate, it's the language. It's so many things that we need to decolonize. I choose now to say stuff like multi-ethnic versus mixed race or biracial because those things are things that come out of eugenics, which is pseudoscience, which pseudoscience was created by white supremacists. So these are things that we need to be able to start decolonizing. And if we're going to go around preaching to everybody about decolonizing, we got to recognize what we need to decolonize out of ourselves as well and realize that it's a larger aspect of things that we need to decolonize from, not just race, if that makes sense.
Are you done, Rebellious Son? Did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, for now. I'm gonna drop down now.
Okay, thank you for your input. It was really good to hear. My Bear 86, did you have anything to add to the panel? Or what you would like to say? My Bear? Burr. Okay. We're gonna drop you.
Darn.
What?
Oh, no. I mean, he wasn't answering, or she. I don't know who that was. I thought that was Sleeping Bear, actually.
No, it wasn't Sleeping.
Oh, okay. I was like, doesn't he have a bear on his knee?
I guess you could request back up if he wants to.
If he's ready
Yeah.
to talk, he can request back up. It's so good.
But yeah, and I think at the end of the day, though, the syndicate is the egos are really high right now. I've caught them, and I'm like I said, I'm gonna do this all weekend. I'm gonna as soon as I get off of this live, I'm gonna start uploading everything I got on them. But I have them. They're over there being, ass kissing to OHF, but I caught them running their mouth about OHF, running their mouth about Dean, running their mouth about Lynn, because they're mad that everybody is going into their platforms and giving and gifting them. And they're not coming into their platform and gifting them. They're doing this for money. This is monetary. They're trying to profit off erasure, and particularly indigenous erasure. This is why they won't debate me on my platform. I either have to go into theirs on TikTok. They will go, they make the excuse, come to YouTube so we can show sources and this and this and this, but they'll go into other people's platforms and pull up sources and show them all day long. They'll do it on Sutin's platform and pull up sources all day long. But when it comes to certain people, they want natives to go over to YouTube to debate them because they're going to make money off of it much easier than they make money off of TikTok, which is why I won't go to the YouTube to debate them on YouTube. And what for? I've debunked them. I've showed sources in all my videos. And then they want to sit there and say that I turn around and I just freestyle. I can freestyle because I can pull up sources whenever I want to. I can freestyle because I've already shown the proof and the sources of what I've been debunking them on. But they will turn around and make a video and say, I didn't even watch what you said in the video. I just heard the first 30 seconds and they go off. Well, I debunked you in that video, but you don't want to recognize that. You don't want to see those sources, or you'll take my sources and you'll turn around and you'll misconstrue what I've said. I've literally watched them do this, misconstrue what I've said, twist my words around, or completely say things I've never said at all. And then I can show them where I've talked to the pretendians. I've shown them videos of where I talked to the pretendians, saying,
I feel that's a common thing on this app. And it's not just with them, it's with the pretendians, it's with certain problematic natives, the 3Ms, for example. They will take and twist words, or they'll add to it. What Reddit about me, adding shit that doesn't even pertain to me, saying, oh, this is it. She's taking the basic information that she sees on this page and just adds to it, like, oh, her dad's white. No, my dad's Métis. She's got a native mom and a white dad. So what? Even if my dad was white, you know what? So what? That still makes me half. It still makes me connected. It still means that I'm gonna keep muting her every time she runs her mouth. You know?
Well, and then that's the other thing that they're confusing, right? When they use DNA or when they use racial identity and they conflate it with ethnic identity. And ethnic identity is the shared ancestry and culture of a group of people. You can be any race in an ethnicity. You can be black, white, brown. You can be whatever race that society has put onto us and still be part of one ethnic group. And that's what they're not getting. So even then, don't they're conflating race with ethnicity. Race is not the same thing. Race is how we phenotypically present and how people perceive that phenotype. So even when you perceive black, right, as a race, because it's also a Black American or African American is an ethnicity, but it's also a racial category. So many of these things are conflated together because that's done on purpose. So when they say, well, a black person, okay, well, what do you mean by a black person? Because there are black people in India that are not of African descent. There are black people in Australia that are not of African descent. And so these are things, there are people who are very white presenting in Australia, how they use the term black is not the same way that we use the term black here in the United States. So even based on different countries on how race is perceived and used in the social construct is not the same as in other countries around the world. So these are the things that they're conflating and trying to make it seem like everybody in the world follows the same concepts of race that the United States does, and we don't. And they don't, you know what I mean? And so this is where these conversations they start to become anti-black, they start to become anti-native and things like that because of that. Even when people say racially native, well, what is racially native? Because natives in Alaska do not look like the same as natives in South America. You know, natives in the desert do not look the same as natives in the woodlands. We adapt to our regions, and our regions is what gives us our phenotypes, not our race. Our race does not give us our phenotypes. Our regions do.
Also, a big misconception about Canadian natives. You know, we have very dark natives up here. We have very light natives. They're like, if you look at me and my brother is very dark. I'm very light. You know, he doesn't spend any more time out in the sun than I do. So. There's another misconception. They think that all the natives up here are all white. We're not. You know, it's crazy. I have seen natives that are darker than black people. You know.
Well, and again, that's when people are conflating race with ethnicities, right? And then also not fully understand genetics. They're trying to simplify genetics to a level that you can't simplify genetics that way. Genetics is very complicated, and how genes are passed down is very random and very complicated. Like exactly like you said, in one family, you can have a very light-skinned child and a very dark-skinned child with the same parents. You know, you can have, that's just genetics are randomly passed down. And so when I hear, even when I hear Mateo talk about genetics, he gets some things right, but most of it wrong. Because again, they don't have that background or at all in science to sit there. Just taking the one biology class in college does not make you somebody who really understands the genetics or the biology of a human being. It's way more complicated than that. My whole degree is in this. I have to study every aspect of science, but in particularly biology. And that's where genetics comes from, is out of biology. And so you got to understand the differences in the different types of genetics and the terms that we use. I've also explained that different disciplines in science, from archaeology to anthropology to historians to geneticists, they all use the terms ancestry and descendancy in different ways. And there are several papers that I've brought up showing that the science community as a whole across all disciplines need to get on the same page with these terms because they're very confusing to the layman, and they are laymen. They don't have science degrees, especially in health sciences. I don't care if they got a STEM degree. It's not in health science. And that's the problem that they're having. And then they want to sit there and make fun of my nursing degree and say, "Oh, it's just a nursing degree." Well, my nursing degree is one of the most challenging degrees out there. It's basically mini med school. You know what I mean?
It is very. That's why they are making nurses. What do you call them? They're giving them all the power of doctors now. Medical. What are they called? Practitioners.
Yeah, nurse practitioners. Yeah.
Nurse practitioners. So how is it that doing 4 years of school is non-existent? It's just kind of like what they did with that other lady with her 2 degrees. They're like, oh, she's not this. Who the hell are you guys now? Are you like education police? Are you saying whose degree is valid and whose isn't? Like, it's disgusting how people go around here and use that supremacy mentality and they use anything, education, you know, and them not knowing, even in Canada, they were trying to do it to me, and them not knowing in Canada, we are able to get an education easier than it is down there. You know, like I heard that it's very hard to get an education or get educated in post-secondary down there, but it's not that hard up here.
Yeah, it's not an easy degree to get, and you got so the thing of it is that they want to sit there and try to compare their tech degrees to health sciences, and that's not the same thing. So they're misinforming a lot of people. They're doing this to monetize. They are mad that people don't send them gifts. Sutin himself said, "I ain't trying to do this for free." If you think I'm going to stay, if they don't get rid of TikTok, you think I'm going to stay on TikTok much longer because I ain't doing this shit for free? Well, then why are you doing it? You're doing it for money and you're misinforming people at the same time. And not to mention, their platform would not be what their platform, and I deeply regret this, their platform would not be what their platform was had I not started going into their platforms and started bringing natives into their platforms, because they didn't really have any native people in their platforms when they first started off talking about this stuff.
So
because I sat and watched them for a couple of weeks to make sure that they weren't pseudo themselves. And then I started interacting with them in their chat. And then I started going up on their panels. Their platform would not been what it is had it not been for me bringing natives into their platform. So I regret that.
Okay. Sutin, come on up.
Come on up, Sutin. It's not cap. As a matter of fact, I caught y'all lying again the other night. What was it that you guys said? That you guys were talking about dogs when Port City called us Siberian Huskies, and then said that I didn't show the context before. I got that whole live and the whole context. I got at least 20 minutes before that, if not longer, before he called us Siberian Huskies. You guys were not talking about dogs. You guys, he purposefully said what he said. So you guys are nothing but pathological liars. And I'm putting it all on YouTube, since I know y'all are the ones behind the Toxic Trends account. You guys could deny it all you want, which you guys are good at, but y'all are just as pseudo. And I got you running your mouth about Dean. I got you guys running your mouth about OHF, mad that you guys aren't getting money and gifts and things like that, and you guys ain't doing this for free. I got all that recorded, bro. I don't make claims unless I got it recorded and proof of it. Unlike you, who sat there and lied on me several times and made claims about me several times.
You literally are worried about monetization? Like, go out there and do stuff.
So, hello. Thank you for having me on the panel.
Thank you.
Very, interesting discussion. I wanted to share because I used to follow Port City earlier this year because, I thought he was,
Follow them. Yeah.
I thought he wasn't what he actually is. It was a live. I remember he hosted a live and he was talking about the moche. Now, if you don't know, the moche are like an ancient culture from Peru. They have very realistic heads, pottery heads, and Port City was basically saying black people shouldn't claim the moche because they practiced homosexuality. Like, he brought up like how the Spanish had to like teach them not to be, accept homosexuality, and I kept thinking, why are you doing that angle if you're trying to like debunk the quote unquote, pretendians by being homophobic? Like, that's when I personally stopped following him because that logic to me made no sense. And then all the other stuff started coming up, and I wasn't surprised.
And right now, Susan and them are mad because the natives ain't fucking with them like they want them to. But then they say they don't care if we fuck with them, but then they mad that nobody's going into their spaces. And then this is the only thing that they have. Like, I don't even hold lives on this shit no more. I talk about the border because that's what's important when I hold my lives. And the pretendians, let's just be honest. The black pretendians, they hold no power into taking any of our culture. They hold no power into taking anything that natives do get. And even then, detribalized natives don't get the same things that tribal natives get. And it's not very much that tribal natives get anyway. So at the end of the day, it's the white pretendians who are the ones getting busted stealing. It's the white pretendians that are getting busted taking positions that they shouldn't be taking. Those are the people that we need to focus on. But at the same time, we also need to be able to combat the misinformation from the black pretendians as well. But we don't have to give them platforms. And my biggest thing, especially even like with people like Mono and Mateo and Manny and things like that, the more you go into their lives to argue with them, the more you go into their lives and fight with them. I'm not saying don't go in and defend yourself here and there, but to do it every single time is what gives them their views that they're looking for. It gives them the drama that they want in order to get those views and in order to get the coins sent to them. And that's what that is. So the more you ignore them, the more you deplatform them. The more I've literally seen Mono start a live 3 or 4 times in an hour because nobody was going into his space. So the only way he can get any attention is if he goes into other spaces. And if you platform them and give them that attention, then they get what they want. They're winning. You can't give them any kind of attention. Same with the pretendians. If you keep platforming them and giving them attention, they win. They have more opportunities to spread their misinformation. And so you have to ignore it.
That was something too that Susan was saying last night, is that, oh, she just wants attention. Exactly. If I wanted attention, I would be sitting up there on the platform. I didn't want attention. I was calling him out. I was calling out Sutek, or it was Sutek, sorry, not Susan. I was calling him out for his anti-native behavior. And I was telling people where to find the video. It's on Mama's other page about all the things, and when he was bringing up names, I'm like, how come you didn't say Pocahontas? You seem to like saying that name a lot, like he was calling Mama's Pocahontas. And I thought that was, no, I corrected myself. You want to hold me that for the next 5 years? You want to hold me to it? I corrected myself, dude. But he was calling Mama's Pocahontas, and that's really, really disrespectful, because her being a Native woman and Pocahontas being our first MMIW, what the fuck are you trying to portray there? What is that?
I don't know. You guys called me a wobbo, so I don't really give a fuck what you guys say at this point.
Who?
Suiting in them. And then the whole Spaniard and the whole conquistador that they like to call me, and they like to put the little Spanish flag up and things like that, and then trying to sit there and act like they're not anti-native.
Grown ass.
But we'll sit there. grown ass men will sit there and be contradictory and say, if you say one anti-black thing to one black person, you're anti-black. But if you say one anti-native to a native person who we don't even believe she's native anyway, it's none of your business. It's not your place to say anyway. You're not native.
Yeah.
Unless you guys are claiming to be native all of a sudden, are you? Are you so? And you guys claim to be natives? Since you guys think you can go around telling natives who they are and who they're not? You guys want to use white science, white supremacy science to determine people's by their DNA what their cultures are and how they grew up? Because the native ways, what indigenous people do and what most cultures do is not about race, how you phenotypically present. And I don't even phenotypically present as white, but you guys like to call me that too, right?
No, she doesn't.
And then they sit there and they play the game of, well, Rob says, I never called her white. I never called her Spaniard. I just said she has Spanish DNA. I've never denied that. I don't deny I got Spanish ancestors. But when you sit there and defend what Rob does, defend people like Sutin and Sutek and Mofax and Tika and all these other people that want to sit there and push that rhetoric, you ain't no better than them. You're guilty by association, period. And then y'all generalize the fuck out of us all the time.
So if you're not talking to me, you specify who you're talking to. Enough of this fucking bullshit, and then you turn around, oh, she's narcissistic. She thinks I'm talking about her. Fuck that shit. Fuck those head games. I'm so fucking tired of this bullshit that you guys play on everybody.
They don't even know what narcissism is.
Like, that's what I told him. I said, look up what that word means. You're not using it in a proper context. And then you go and proceed to call me uneducated. You guys aren't even fucking using your words in proper context.
Okay, okay? Sorry, I was cleaning, but I'm here now. What the hell? Holy shit. Calm down, woman. Calm down.
We're letting it all out on Susan.
Apparently, you could come up soon if you like. I don't care.
Oh, he could. He don't want to. I've already invited him twice.
Oh.
Denied it twice.
Oh.
Let's sit here.
Then why you?
You didn't say any of what, Sutin, because I got you recording saying a whole lot of shit.
Like, you're not even fucking specifying what the fuck you're saying. You're like, that whole sentence right there could mean like 10 different things.
Well, I know that everything I said, Sutin has said, I have recorded.
Mamas, native vibes. I don't know what y'all talking about native vibes. I didn't say anything to you. I didn't call nobody no Pocahontas. So when did I say I call somebody Pocahontas?
Oh no, that's
when did I call somebody narcissistic?
That was Sutek.
I corrected myself.
Sutek.
You're gonna fucking come at me for the next 5 years because
I'm not coming at none of y'all.
Yeah,
I'm not coming at none of y'all.
I'm fucking hearing about this. That time that Nate said I called him Pocahontas. I corrected myself. I said it wasn't Sutin, it was Sutek.
But then you said I called you narcissistic.
How come you didn't hear that? How come you didn't hear that?
You just said I called you narcissistic.
How come you didn't hear me correct myself and say Sutek? How come?
Okay.
How come you didn't hear
I'm simply saying is
let's not get banana.
You guys can host your lives. I can talk about all you want. What I'm simply saying is that when y'all come to our spaces and y'all give y'all stories, pretending they're going to take the stories and then they're going to make it seem like they're their own. So y'all need to leave that to yourselves when y'all help y'all lives.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Wait, Nativemamaz, hold on. So
yeah.
Okay. Let me tell you something real quick. First of all, it's a false equivalency to compare native creation stories, which are real creation stories, not something we made up. This is something that's been passed down through generations, hundreds, thousands of years, okay? With pretendians who are just making shit up.
Ma'am, a lot of creation stories are not backed by science.
Hold on. I'm not talking about African people. I'm talking
about all creation stories.
First of all,
a lot of them are not backed by science.
Me, I wasn't done.
Y'all brought me up here.
I wasn't done. I'm asking you a question. Let me finish.
But you're about to lie and say all
I'm not about to lie. Now
stop. Real.
Now let me finish what I was saying. You don't know what I was going to say.
You just said it.
No, I didn't. I didn't finish. You cut me off. So with that being said, When you're sitting here making false equivalencies about pretendians and their so-called creation stories that they're literally making up out of thin air versus our creation stories that have been oral traditions for thousands of years, okay? That's a false equivalency, number one. Number two, our creation stories are rooted in indigenous science. Our creation stories explain evolution. They explain these things. They are metaphors and analogies for actual evolution in which Western science has confirmed what we already knew. You guys take that and run with it and make it literal. They're not literal stories. They are metaphors for science. They are metaphors for evolution. When we say we come from the stars, it's because of the Big Bang Theory. We already knew. We studied this stuff. It's actually, we have the evidence of how scientifically advanced we were. We knew the stars. We knew the rotations of the planets. We knew how all of these things worked. So they didn't have the language we have now in explaining science thousands of years ago. They didn't have that language. So they used the language that they had to explain that. And those stories have been passed down over and over again. Now, because of a Eurocentric point of view and because of colonization, people have interpreted those stories as mythology versus as science. Well, we don't literally, no native has literally claimed that we sprouted out from the ground because our creation stories say we come from the ground. That's not what we're saying. We're not speaking in a literal sense. We're speaking in a metaphorical sense because
You just don't be there when they say it. They've said that. They've literally said that.
No, they don't. We don't say
Okay,
we
so
sprout from the
you be in
ground.
every native, you be in every live where the natives come in our panels and say it. They've literally said what you
You're
just said.
taking it literal.
Do you
No, because they
do you
say
have the
it.
receipts?
You're taking it
You have
literal.
receipts?
Yes, we have them. We have
Then
them.
show
Don't worry
them.
about it.
Show
Okay.
them because you keep saying you're going to show receipts, but you don't.
No,
So I
I
want
play
to
it
see.
when I go live. I play it all the time.
Oh, of course. So, okay. I want to see the videos of natives
Hey, don't worry about
saying
it.
it in a literal sense. Do you know the difference between
I
literally
got
and
like four of them
metaphorically?
saying it.
Do you got it? Oh, one.
I didn't say
So
one. I said four.
Which four?
Tribe. Which tribe?
And which four?
Don't worry about it.
Which
Oh, why
tribe?
can't you say it?
Don't worry about it.
You know that every tribe has their own creation stories, right?
All I'm saying is when natives say we came from the
Okay,
stars,
which
that's
tribe?
okay.
Which
But when
tribe?
pretendians say the same thing, then we all attack them.
Because
But we all know pretendians
you're not
lie.
getting, bro.
Right?
You're not understanding the fact that our creation stories are indigenous science. The pretendians are just making shit up. You are making a false equivalency. Do you understand what a
We
false
say the same
equivalency is?
thing. Africans
not
get on
the
our
same
panel and
thing.
say we came from the stars.
Do you know what a false equivalency is? Do you know what that is? Do you know what a false equivalency is?
Hey, y'all got it.
Do you know what a false
No,
equivalency is?
Can I ask him?
You don't.
So, do you guys actually go at the
Hey, guys.
Africans when they bring up their stories
Yes,
too?
ma'am. I go at everybody.
Okay, well, the thing of it is, like I said, you're creating a false
disrespectful.
equivalency. And not only that, you have a Eurocentric point of view. So you're not native. You do not
You're right,
understand
I'm
our
not.
creation stories. And our creation stories
Uh-huh.
are literally metaphors for indigenous science and
That's
evolution.
nice.
I thought
See,
you were
I
native.
don't disagree. All I'm saying
So
is
then
that
don't sit there and make a false equivalency between
when-
us, where our
when
stories are rooted in
pretendians
science,
and everybody that's
pretendians
not
who are just
native
making shit up.
comes on black people's panels and do the same thing.
Don't pull the race card. Don't
no,
you
no,
pull that
no,
race
no.
card.
Because they say the same thing y'all
Don't
say
pull
on
the
our
race
live.
card.
And we
Do
supposed
not
to
pull the
let
race
y'all
card.
say it and
Our
attack them when they
stories-
say it, bro. I'm not doing that shit.
This is what you're not getting. Our stories are rooted in indigenous science. Pretendian stories are rooted
Every
in
single native
pretendianism.
origin story is rooted in science and it can be
Yes.
backed by science.
Yes.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yep.
Okay, so anthropology, archaeology, biology, that's all science. Okay, let's just get that straight. You guys are leaving out a lot of things in your theories about us. And I think you shouldn't, because all you're doing is creating more problems.
How am I creating problems? I'm not the one that's her attacking. I didn't make no video. I didn't make no video going after BGP. She made videos going after us, and we responded. But when that Weeda chick said some false shit, she called her and told her, "Oh, you know what? This is what's going on. We shouldn't be going after each other." She gave her a conversation
So then why did you
out of
go,
the eyes of the public.
why did Port City make a video off of Native Mama's comment instead of going into Native Mama's DMs first?
Ask Port.
Okay, well, don't sit there and talk shit because I'm gonna tell you right now. All I did,
listen, you and Native Mamas tagged me in y'all videos and shit. I didn't tag you, nigga.
I didn't.
I don't need. I'm gonna because you guys are all part of the same group.
I didn't start anything with you.
Crap.
I didn't start anything with you. You started that shit with
the
me.
Same rhetoric as Port City,
And
as
you
no
push
facts,
the same
and-
rhetoric as motherfuckers you claim that you going against. I got it.
No, I don't. No, we don't.
Sutton.
Not at all.
Sutton, I've never tagged you in shit. Honestly.
Everybody, please,
I
one
don't
at a
like to make those. Shit. I'm literally trying to I never tagged you in anything. I've come to your DMs to tell you, your name's been mentioned, but other than that, nothing.
All I've ever done was debunk y'all's misinformation. You guys insult. Who had me on their green screen like 2 or 3 days in a row, Sutin? When did I ever put you guys on my green screen? When did I ever insult your skin tones? When did I ever insult your ethnicity? When did I ever insult your race? Never. But that's what you guys do to me because you guys don't have the facts and you're mad that I keep debunking you.
Ma'am,
I don't attack you. I debunk you. Learn
Mamas
the difference.
Was live, so I
Learn
came
the
over here.
difference.
I don't.
You
I
mad
don't know
that
what
I'm
you
using
talk
your
about
words
in live.
against you? You're mad that I'm using your
I don't
misinformation
care
against
about
you?
none of that,
You take that
ma'am.
as an attack?
I don't care about
Can we
any
let him
of that,
speak?
ma'am.
at a time, please. Let Sutton talk now.
All I'm simply saying is that I saw Native Mama was live and I came over here. I don't watch BGP's lives. I don't know what you talk about. I don't care what you talk about because you put your foot in your mouth all the time. You'll say something and then act like you didn't say it, and people played the recordings of you saying exactly what you said you didn't say. So at this point, I don't care.
That's a lie right there.
We showed it on the YouTube.
No,
We
you
played
didn't.
everything that you say you don't disagree with. We played it. You be like,
you
oh
did that.
well, I said this, and this. I didn't say that. Ron made a whole montage video of you saying shit you said you didn't say.
Oh,
And here it is. I didn't say
on the
that.
toxic
I got
tip
it.
trends YouTube.
I got it.
YouTube. On
I
that
got
YouTube.
it.
On that toxic tip trends YouTube.
No,
Okay,
he
so
made a
Rebecca-
TikTok video of
Rebellious
you saying things you claimed you didn't say.
Yeah, and he misconstrued what I said.
And he misconstrued what you said, and you said it. Got it.
And then you guys, because you guys like to pick no, because what you guys like to do is pick and choose what I
There's
said.
no you
So,
guys, ma'am.
Hold on, let me
Ma'am,
tell you exactly
I've never
what.
made. I
let me
don't
tell
make
you.
videos. I don't stitch your videos to make videos.
Let me
so
let
don't
me
say
tell
you guys.
Let me tell you what Rob
Just
did.
say the
okay?
Adjustment Syndicate.
Let me tell you what Rob did. So when I said
Just say the Adjustment Syndicate. You don't have to say Rob Port Mo.
I don't care. I'm going to tell
just say the
you.
Adjustment
You brought
Syndicate,
up
man.
Rob's video, right? So let me tell you what Rob did. When I said African Americans, I'm not talking about pretendians because they don't believe they're African. You guys, the Syndicate and other African Americans say you're African. So I'm repeating what you guys said. And then he tried to misconstrue that to say, oh, so you don't call people African? You call yourselves African, so that's what I'm going to call you.
But the pretendians don't.
Pretendians don't call themselves African.
So you've never
I
called a
don't call them
pretendian
African.
African?
And
You've never
no, I have
called
not.
a
And I've
pretendian.
shown.
Okay.
I have not. And what I have said is that why are you denying you have African ancestors? That's what I have told them. And I have shown the videos of me saying that to different pretendians, where I have literally said, why are you denying your African? That's what I have told them. Why are you denying your African ancestors?
I don't know. I don't know who's doing that. I'm going to let Rebellious Son speak. I'm not muting you, Notorious. I don't know who's doing it.
Somebody with a no caller ID that keeps calling my phone, and I keep ending it because I don't answer no caller ID phone numbers.
We'll let Rebellious Son speak because he's been waiting for a while.
Yeah. Oh, hello. Oh.
Hi.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that it's been a long time since what's his name again? Port City has not been to any of our African lives. And there was only like two lives that he been to, like which is the popular one. And he will only sometimes like you bring the small sources, but sometimes he's only there for the drama, right? But he would never come back due to I don't know what happened eventually, but I did notice that it could be like one somebody did call him out, or two, he didn't have enough sources to prove, and he did went to he said what you did went to Egypt just to go study some things, and mind you, I kind of do forget, and then he went back to talk about pretensions or whatever.
Wasn't he selling some African necklaces too? He
I
had some African merch for sale.
It looks like I did see that. Like, looks, yeah, I believe so. I believe so.
So what is, like, are you just saying like he's just using the African diaspora, or
For money, 100% for money. Because he's not even like really like doing things just to benefit his own people. It's only just to benefit his own self,
right?
and that's what he does. But in our lives, right? We never ask anybody for money, not even for like the cash shots, whatever, right? And I noticed that some people that came in, um, who came in, do have cash ups on the profile, and I was about to
Yeah.
call whatever, right? And and I told the host, so like, we're gonna have to get rid of these people because they only came here just for views. They never ever came here just to like talk about our history, whatever. And guess who those people are? They only came from America. Black Americans are the only ones that bring those kind of cash ups in their profile, and they won't admit that they're doing this for money. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Big Suiton. A lot of the Black Americans that came on the African Live, right, are doing this for money, and I'm not lying.
I
They do
think
this for money.
personally that's wrong because it involves actual lives of people. Like the pretendians. I keep hearing that too,
Mm-hmm.
is that they're doing it for clicks and likes and money, and possibly even getting paid for it. Like these are all things that I've heard that they're doing, and it kind of coincides with what they're doing. Like they're doing it for clicks, likes, gifts, and whatever. Um, and I think that's wrong because you're hurting other people, other groups of people in the process.
But you can't.
Performing.
To be honest, I don't like to disrespect people's hustle either. Like, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. Who are we to say
This
anything?
But
good
profiting off of erasure is not okay. That's a
Well, no, that's not okay. But I mean,
You got
obviously claim they're African American and that they're, making money off of who they are. I mean,
but
who are
here's
we
the
to
thing,
say
right?
anything?
fine during the pandemic, but the pandemic's over. Come on, get your asses.
But here's the thing, right? Like the syndicate, likes to say that natives push taking DNA tests, right? But who's been pushing the DNA test and saying go to africanancestry.com to get your DNA test because it's going to show you which tribes you come from. First of all, mitochondrial DNA and Y-DNA do not show which tribes you come from. That's a scam. I tell that to my people.
None of us said you
Hold on,
didn't
I'm
show you
not
what
done.
tribe you come from. You
Yes,
made that up.
No, it's not. It's on the freaking videos. It's on the YouTube video of when you guys had your honorary PhD up there talking about it. They claim that you
Said
that you
to
can
show you
find your
what tribe
tribes.
you come from.
Yes, they said that in the YouTube. when he was interviewing her. That's number one. Number two, you guys are pushing the DNA tests. And why? Because Port City has a freaking code for it under his name. He gets a cut from that every
He
time somebody
doesn't,
uses his
ma'am.
code.
He doesn't get a
Bullshit.
cut from the code,
Okay.
ma'am.
You're telling me you don't get a code when you promote
He
something?
doesn't get a cut. She put that code in there so people can go and get a discount when they try to get, they subscribe to get the African ancestry test. They get the discount for the code. He doesn't get a cut of that money, ma'am.
Okay.
Yo, can you please stop lying on me? I do not get 10%
Hey,
from
Forrest.
I
AfricanAncestry.com.
didn't say you got 10%. I said
Let
you
me
got
let
a
me
cut.
finish since y'all talking about me. First of all, African Ancestry, the CEO, took her time to talk about how you test for DNA. I don't
And
get a
she's not a
cut.
geneticist either.
I never got it. She worked with a geneticist, Dr.
But she's
Kittle.
not the
Dr. Rick
geneticist
Kittles.
herself.
Dr. Rick Kittles is the CEO of that company. He is a geneticist.
But she's not, and she doesn't
She
even have a
works with a
science
She
geneticist.
background.
said she wasn't a
I
geneticist
never
when
said
she
she
first
was.
started
Stop
the
putting
interview.
stuff in my mouth, man. I'm sick of this shit.
When she first started the
Let's
interview,
talk
she
about
said
your
she
lies,
wasn't a
Port City.
geneticist,
Let's talk
ma'am.
about how you said you guys were talking about dogs when you called us Siberian Huskies. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about how I apologize. And if your ass wasn't there, that's too fucking bad. So anybody
No, you
that
apologize to your echo
let me finish
chamber.
talking, please. Anybody that may have been offended by what I said, I made my apology back then. Okay? I'm not gonna
Then why are
continue.
you
I'm not
guys
gonna
lying?
continue. I'm not gonna continue to make apologies just because you feel this bad about the shit.
No. Why are you guys? Why did you guys lie
So
on your
I
line
don't
the other
understand why
night?
you bringing up some shit that happened last year.
Why are you guys lying when you said the other? Hold on, Native Vibes. Hold on. Why are you guys lying when the other night, a few nights ago, when you said that the only reason why you called is that because you guys were talking about dogs anyway, and you guys were talking
I
about how
said
dogs
that.
migrated.
I said that, ma'am.
And there is a correlation between
So
people
why
of
are you
America.
lying? Because that's
There
not
is,
what you guys were
listen to
talking
what I'm
about.
telling you. There
You
is a
can't say I'm
correlation.
lying if
There
my
is a
memory is
correlation
serving me
between
and
dogs
I'm
and
saying what
humans
I
entering
said.
America.
My memory serves me that
One
I
at a
thought we were talking
time.
about dogs. So how the fuck is that lying?
Oh, come on now. You guys were never talking
One at a
about
There's
time,
a
dogs.
guys.
cor-
Come
there-
on.
You
listen,
can't tell me I'm
there's
lying if
Oh
that's
my
what my
God.
memory serves me as saying.
Holy shit.
You have never talked about dogs.
So it's not
Ever.
lying.
One at a
Why
time.
y'all bring me up here if y'all just gonna keep muting me?
Because you
I
guys
know. I
aren't
I
don't.
was chilling in the
listening to
chat.
me. Pay
Okay.
attention.
Ask
Pay
me
attention.
questions,
I'm
I
asking
answer, and y'all start
you.
muting me.
I'm
Holy
So I
shit.
can just go.
I'm asking
Native
you.
Vibes.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Native
I'm
Vibes.
asking
Stop
you to
now.
go
Stop.
one at a time. You guys
Stop.
aren't listening.
Just
I'm
stop.
asking you to
Ugh.
do one at a time.
Too many
Whatever.
times,
He
man.
can have his little fucking hissy fit. The fact is that I'm asking you guys to do one at a time. You guys aren't listening.
Yeah, but be respectful though.
I mean, I even got muted, so.
I am being respectful. I am telling
You're
them.
yelling at me. Don't be yelling
I'm
at
at the
me.
point where I'm fucking tired of asking them to be one at a time. Fuck.
I know. But yeah, please talk one at a time. Let them finish before you speak. You know, that kind of a thing. Land your plane quick. I don't know if I want to put this guy up here.
No.
Not right now. Yeah, not right now. Because it's too much shit.
Like,
Okay,
seriously,
I'm sorry.
I
Go ahead.
blocked him.
I told you I blocked everybody.
No.
Okay.
I'm supposed to unblock that
Okay.
one.
Shh. Okay. Anyways, go ahead. What are we talking about?
Port had left off. Sorry. Go ahead, Port.
Okay, go ahead, Port.
Yeah, I apologize about my comments, and I moved on since then. So anybody that heard it, it is what it is. And if you haven't, I'm sorry you didn't hear it. But I'm not going to sit up here every day and apologize about something that I did last year, just to suffice, satisfy somebody named Brown Girl Pride. I don't understand why she's making videos of some shit that I was saying last year, or I said last year. I apologize. And if you guys don't like what I said, don't follow me. It's just as simple as that. Move on.
So what Rob did when I misspoke, what Rob had me do was go into a live, record it, and say that I misspoke and apologize, which I did. It's posted on my YouTube, and I've given Rob the video for it.
I didn't see this apology that you made. And I just keep hearing about it. Is it possible that you can probably do something like that as well?
Look, for those who listening right now, my comments that I made in the past, I'm very apologetic about it.
Okay.
Now, for those who are there that wants to accept it, that's fine. But if you don't, I'm not going to sit up here and continue to apologize about something that makes everybody feel uncomfortable if you haven't moved on from it. Like I have apologized. I'm very apologetic about it, but I'm not going to sit up here and be put in the corner over something that I've said a while back.
Understandable.
Can I ask you a question, Port? Hold on, Native Vibes. Hold on, Port. Can I ask you a question? Kind of like a statement also, but basically, you know how you guys are saying that a lot of natives are being anti-black and all this and that, and we've checked Manny with the N-word, and you know, we've been doing our due diligence. But on your guys' part, why aren't you guys stopping the whole rhetoric with the whole Siberians and Mongolians? I mean, Asian shit.
Like I can't.
Like when they're
Go ahead.
I mean, show that you don't. I mean, basically, don't agree with that, because that to us is being racist towards us. Just like how they turned wobble into a freaking racist word. Well, they did the same too. I just think it should be going both ways at this point.
We have.
It would be nice if you guys, you know, literally.
I just want to ask Port a question. Are you still pushing the fact that we're descendants of Asians?
I'm pushing. Look, I'm not pushing the fact. Look, it is what it is, and I'm never going to change my stance.
Are you saying
let me finish, please? Are you going to let me finish? Or are you going to talk over me?
I asked you a simple question. It's yes or no.
Well, I'm going to explain. Let me finish answering the question before you cut me off, please.
Go ahead and let him talk.
Now, what I've said before, and I'm saying again, the people of America, Native Americans, possess an ancestry pool that originated in East Asia approximately 50,000 years ago. Did I say Native Americans were East Asians? I've never said that. Now, I can understand how it can be weaponized, but I've never done that to you guys. I've done in the past is try to explain how you guys been here. How you guys got here, and how African Americans are not, and how African Americans have never been over here up until colonization. So in order for us, in order for me to do that, sometimes we have to go into science, and the same science that proved that African Americans come from Africa should be the same science that proved that Native Americans' ancestry originated in East Asia. Not saying that you are.
But it wasn't East Asia.
I've never said that shit.
Oh, hold on.
Ever. And I'm talking about mitochondrial lines. I said haplogroups A, B, C, D, Q, and X. I'm very specific when I talk.
This is where you guys are conflating stuff. See, you're saying African Americans come from Africa, and then you're saying that Native Americans come from Asia.
I said your genetic ancestral pool does.
Do you understand the difference between, as I've asked you before, the difference between saying ancestry and how that is taken by layman people as meaning we are descendants of Asians? Do you understand that when you guys say we are descendants of Asians? You understand that without any context when you say our ancestry pool? Because a lot of people have an ancestry pool from there. And I've told you this before. I have said that there are Eastern Central Africans who have a haplogroup, a parent haplogroup that comes from Europe. Are they descendants of Europeans?
Who say that again?
There is groups of East Central Africans, the Chadic people, the Chadic speaking people whose haplogroup originates in Europe. So are those
people don't have nothing to do with West Africa.
No. This is the logic.
I'm talking about West Africa.
Listen to my logic. Listen to the logic. The Chadic speaking people have a haplogroup that originates in Eurasia. That's where it originates at. Are those people descendants of Europeans?
I have nothing to do with the chatter group. What I talk about is, listen, I talk about the
No,
L1.
answer the question,
I talk
because
about the
your
L1,
logic
the
is this.
L2 haplogroup.
Let
Let
me
me
tell you
finish.
why.
Are we going to talk, or are you just going to be
I
yelling
am
the
going
whole
to
time?
talk because you're trying to deflect from. Hold on, hold on. Wait, Nate, wait.
I'm
Let
not
me
trying to do
hold
anything
on.
other
Let
than
me.
talk.
Okay, let me stop. The reason why
No,
I'm
I'm letting
asking
you
you the
talk.
question is this: your logic is saying this, that because Native Americans have a haplogroup that originates in Asia, that we are descendants of Asians. So my question is, with the same logic, do those Chadic speaking people who are East Central Africans, since they have a haplogroup that originates in Eurasia as well, are they descendants of Eurasians? Because that's the logic you're pushing.
Okay, Mama's Mateo is blocked until the end of the live. I ain't putting up with this fucking bullshit because he's being a fucking dick. Being a dick in the.
Oh my goodness, this girl.
He's constantly trying to come sit up and start shit on the panel. I'm done.
He's not coming up here anyway. Go ahead and let Port.
I'm on
Yeah,
Syndicate.
If you'd like
look,
to respond.
look, we're specifically talking about African Americans, and we're specifically talking about Native Americans. When we're talking about African Americans, they have 73% Niger Cordofonia DNA. The mitochondrial line goes back to Africa, West Africa specifically. When we're talking about Native Americans, they fall under the mitochondrial haplogroup of A, B, C, D, and Q, and X. These haplogroups did not originate in America. So there's some type of genetic lineage or migration that occurred to get these subclades. And that's all I'm breaking down.
So
and
again,
it seems like to me that somebody or a group of people might be offended by the word East Asia.
so no, again, you're deflecting. Your logic is not logic.
No, it's not logic. It's scientific facts.
No,
and stop,
you're not.
you're trying to frame this like
you're not, because you're trying
listen,
to
Brown Girl
deflect
Pride.
away.
You're trying to frame this like this is my ideas. No, everybody can look this shit up. The leading expert in genetics is Jennifer Rath. She just made a video yesterday. If anybody look at her book, The Origins of America, The Peopling of America, this is where I'm getting my scientific information from. And she's worked with the indigenous people. So I don't understand what y'all mad at me for.
So again, this tells me you don't understand.
No,
what
it don't
you're
tell.
assuming.
No, it tells me that you are
because your
upset with
logic
me.
isn't logicking. So when you are pushing the rhetoric that Native
Okay,
Americans,
so I just told. It's not rhetoric.
it is, because listen to what I'm saying.
Where does?
It's rhetoric when she don't believe in it.
No. Because you guys aren't. The logic does not logic. So again,
Yeah,
when
the
you
logic don't logic when you don't believe in it. I got it.
Where's the mitochondrial line?
We're not going to do this whole. No.
Real quick.
One at a time.
Okay, so
But she's not going one at a time though.
Yeah, I know.
No, but both of you going at her. No, I'm not going to let
Hold
that happen.
on.
Y'all can do it.
Mama.
I got it. I got
One
it.
at
I
a
see.
time.
Okay. So again,
Stop now.
I
Okay.
can jump up for when it's 2-on-1.
Don't worry, Vibes. I got this.
It's a no-go. I got it.
I got this, Vibes.
again.
Native Vibes. I got this. I got this.
Okay.
Go ahead, BGP.
So again, when we're talking about haplogroups, you're not just going to make this about African Americans, and you're not just going to make this about Native Americans, because this applies to the entire world. So when your logic is to say that, if you're going to say that Native Americans are descendants of Asians because our haplogroup, the parent haplogroup, not the subhaplogroups, the parent haplogroup originates in East Asia or in Asia or in Eurasia, that we are descendants of said people. Then when I ask you the same logical question that applies to any other haplogroup or any other group of people in the world, when I say that the Chadic speaking people are East Central African group and have been there for thousands of years, but their haplogroup and they're in their African cultures, their haplogroups originate in Eurasia. Are they then descendants of Eurasians, like you say we are descendants of Asians? And you are completely bypassing that logic. Because when we're talking about haplogroups, we're talking about any haplogroup, any group of people in the world. So if your logic is that, then your logic applies to those East Central Africans. You're saying that those East Central Africans are descendants of Eurasians. That's what you're saying when you say what you're telling us about us. Now I'll mute.
Go ahead, if you want to, go ahead, Court, you can.
Yeah, I mean, this
respond.
is about African Americans and Native Americans. I don't understand why we like that. That's the same thing that a pretending would do. They'll show us a picture of somebody else and say, well, what about this? I'm specifically talking about African Americans who are hijacking y'all culture. Now, it's hard to say, hey, you're not from here without genetics. Come on, man. Like, let's be real. So mitochondrially speaking, we're talking about the peopling of America. Mitochondrially speaking, we're talking about haplogroups that left out of Africa. African Americans possess 73% of non-portifolio in their DNA. That's who the fuck I'm talking about. Excuse my language. So when I say that we don't have the mitochondrial DNA for the peopling of America, that means you guys do. We have sites that's in America. The Anzac site possess mitochondrial DNA that originated out of East Asia. All of the ancient sites that's on the West Coast. When you look all of these up, Anzac, one, you have another site called the Upwards Cave. You have coprolites. You have ancient poop that got mitochondrial DNA from East Asia. There's no way around it. Genetically speaking, that's what the deal is. Now, I'm not saying that Native Americans are East Asians, because when the branch got here, they made their own cultures and became independent people of today, who they are. But everybody come from some damn where, and it needs to be explained.
The fact that you left that door wide open for the pretendians, though.
No, but look, though, no, I'm not. That explains everything. Like, a pretendian can't come up here. That's why they don't like DNA tests from the jump. Because we know that's what separates the whole shit. When I take my DNA test, my mitochondrial group says L2. When you guys take your test, your mitochondrial group's going to fall on the A, B, C, D, Q, or X. That's case closed. Why are we having this discussion if we don't have any understanding on genetic people in America?
The pretendians ran with that. They ran far and fast.
And it wasn't even now
listen, when this stuff first started, I didn't vilify or say you guys are Siberians and all that. I never did that. I was so reluctant to talk about genetics. I didn't want to, because I know this discussion was going to come. But eventually, we got to explain this stuff.
But you're not. That's the problem. You're not.
And for you to call me a liar saying that I take money from AfricanAncestry.com, that's a lie.
So again,
I call. Listen, first of all, no. I call. Hold on, let me talk, yo, because you were saying a lot of suspect stuff about me.
You're deflecting.
No, I'm up here just protecting everything that you said about me. That's all.
You are deflecting off of my question and the logic.
It's not logic. Look, Brown Good Proud. All I'm telling you to do is look at the leading expert in the peopling of America. This ain't me. This ain't my rhetoric. I think you have a misunderstanding of where I get my information from. I don't get my information just to make it up, just to make me sound good. I look at the leading experts in the field of genomics when it's pertaining to the peopling of America. I got the book. Her name is Jennifer Raff. Raff, A-R-A-F-F.
Yes,
her
I know
book
who Jennifer
specifically,
Raff is.
listen,
Let him land the plane before we speak. Let him land his plane.
Damn. Now, in her book, this is what I'm going from. The peopling of America. You had an East Asian group that migrated to northern Siberia. And those East Asians populated with the northern Siberians, and they interbred for some years. And those children groups came out to be the founding groups of the Native Americans, from East Asian DNA and native northern Siberian DNA. Okay, and then you had subclades. That's why you have A2, C1, X2A. You can't have you have to have a mother to be able to produce these subclades. Your mother mitochondrial line comes from East Asia. You guys are a subclade of these groups. And it's a remarkable journey that took to get through there, because you guys required special genetics that we don't have as African Americans, to breathe and all types of stuff that you guys acquired just to get over here. And it's a remarkable thing. That's what the hell I'm explaining. So for y'all to sit up here and say I'm making shit up and I'm lying, I'm not. All I'm doing is going by the leading scientific experts that is in the field of the people of America. Specifically, I'm calling out names. Her name is Jennifer Raff, and she's worked with the indigenous people. And she's sensitive to these subject matters that we're talking about. And she's worked with them.
Are you almost done?
Yeah, I'm right.
Sorry.
I'm going to go back to what I just said. If you want to talk about the science and what haplogroups mean, then why are you applying certain things to one group of people and not to other groups of people? That's my point. When you say we are descendant of Asians, number one, that term did not exist in early human beings. We don't know their cultures. Even Native Americans were not Native Americans 30,000 years ago. I've said this a million times. Africans were not Africans 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 years ago. Europeans were not Europeans. Asians were not Asians. That's number one. Number two, when you say, you guys, and I have caught you guys saying it several times, that we are descendant of Asians. Does that same logic apply to groups like the Chadic-speaking people whose haplogroup originates in Eurasia? Are they then descendants of Eurasians? It's not a hard question to answer.
I'll answer it for you.
The haplogroups and the science apply to everybody in the world.
And you're right. And look, anybody that is, look, you got L0, L1, L2, L3. These are African groups. Anybody that's outside of that haplogroup is a non-African. And I leave my comments there. So if you come from a haplogroup that's M&M, no matter what color you look like, your mitochondrial line goes back to that particular population that split.
Let me say it in black for him. So if you're going to answer the question, if Central Africa have a ancient European haplogroup, does it mean they come from Europe? Like you.
First of all, she didn't say Central Africa. Who is this dude? Are you Central African? I'm talking about West African.
I don't know who let him up.
Who the fuck is this dude?
I don't know who let him up.
Native Mamas, can I ask for the question?
Just answer the question, man.
Yes. Hold on one second. I don't know who let him up.
Port, can you hear me?
Who else is mod here?
I mean,
I don't know, but don't bring him up.
He's not wrong.
Let Susan speak next.
But hold on.
I just got a question for Port. Was that just the tip?
Yeah, that's just the tip.
All right.
Yuck, nasty asses.
So again, you're deflecting from the question. Those Chadic-speaking people who have their specific African culture for hundreds, thousands of years, you're saying that they're not African people,
You got to show me that study, first of all.
I did show it to you. I put it in a video. This tells me you guys are watching.
Look, you made like 20 videos about me, so I don't look at all of them.
This tells me that because I've had to debunk several things, so you guys aren't even looking at the information that I'm providing. Can you debunk the genetic origin of the natives? Can you debunk having a haplogroup that originated in East Asia? Can you debunk that? Then I'm
we can leave the conversation alone.
That's not what I'm trying to debunk.
That's what you're trying to do.
I'm testing your logic.
That's what you're kind of trying to do. Because that's all I've been saying.
I'm not debunking that. Don't put words in my mouth.
Well, what's the problem with
let me repeat the problem that I have stated over 1 million times now. My problem with what you guys are saying is that we are descendants of Asians. So if you're going to apply your logic by the quote unquote science that Native Americans are descendants of Asians because a parent haplogroup originates in Eurasia, then you must apply that same logic to any other group, including African people who have had their culture in Africa for thousands of years, and their haplogroup originates in Eurasia. You have to apply that same logic, and you are going to have to say that those Chadic-speaking people are descendants of Eurasians. Are you willing to say that?
Like I said, Africans possess a haplogroup of L0, L1, L2, L3.
Not all Africans
listen
do.
to what I'm telling you. Any non-African haplogroup is a M and N. These are the out of Africa haplogroups, and that's all I'm talking about specifically. So African Americans, because we're talking about African Americans saying that they was here all the time. I'm not talking about nobody from Chad that's been here all the time. I'm talking about the people that we see every day, my brothers and sisters and stuff. They're the ones that's saying that. When you test African American DNA, 73% of it goes to the Niger Cordofonia. That comes under a mitochondrial haplogroup of L2 specifically. I don't have to talk about people in Chad. I don't have to. Why are we doing that? Now we're talking about the natives, the actual people that was here, the early people that was here.
People though.
The people that was here.
Are the people in Chad? Are the Chadic people not African people?
What's the point? I never said I don't understand the point. The point, I never said that you are Asian. I said you guys have a genetic gene pool that originated in East Asia.
I never said you said we were Asian.
I think you did say that several times. A lot of people. He said we're Asian. He said we're Asian.
No, I didn't.
He said we're Asian. How many times y'all said that?
No. Stop doing that. I never said you called us Asians. What I said is that you keep calling us descendants of Asians. And because of that, and when you keep doing that, you are basically, yes, calling us Asians because we're descendants of a group that didn't exist. So it's a roundabout way of calling us Asians, but I never specifically said you called us Asians. What I have said, and I said this in this live just now, I said you keep saying that we are descendant of Asians. So if we are a descendant of Asians, if the Chadic people are an African group who practice an African culture and their haplogroup originates out of Eurasia, are they then descendants of Eurasians?
I can answer that. Hold on. Because this whole thing has been centered around a missing word. When we first said, we said ancestral population. For some strange reason, everyone keeps dropping off ancestral. Because yes, we don't know what the people were, what the people, what the culture was, none of that. That's why we have always said ancestral. But whenever you say it, you always say Asian. Because every single person that, even the people that you said to look at the videos, because I've watched those videos, we went back and forth. Every single person or anthropologist that you recommend said the same thing. We are an African species. Even the video you recommended, he said it. Because you said go to the 45-minute mark when you were talking about genetic isopoint. If you go back a minute before that, he literally says the same thing. We are an African species and goes over the migration. So the biggest thing that you're missing is ancestral, not Asian current, ancestral, because nobody knows what it is, what that population is, what the culture is. That's why we always say ancestral.
Right, and when I quickly looked this up, speaking to Chadic, it says the Chadic speaking people who primarily inhabit regions of Lake Chad, Central Africa, have a diverse mitochondrial DNA. Lineages that trace back to various maternal ancestries. That's what we're talking about. Okay, it says a significant portion of Chadic groups have mitochondrial haplogroups that common across sub-Saharan Africa, such as L haplogroups. I just said that. There are the most widespread mitochondrial lineage in Africa and are believed to have originated in East Africa. Variants like L0, I said that, L1, I've said that, L2 and L3, I've said that too, are frequently found among Chadic-speaking populations. The haplogroups represent deep maternal lineages, some of which are tens of thousands of years old, like you indicated. So they're L3 too. Thank you very much.
I'll pull up the study that I have, and or I'll tag you in the one I already did because I'm tired of repeating myself. But again, Rob, so let's go back to your ancestral. What is ancestry and descendancy?
Ancestry is who you come from.
And like descendancy is what?
Descendant, who you descend from.
So when you say we descend from Asians, it's not that
ancestral. Stop. You're dropping that word off. Ancestral.
It's the opposite of each other.
Stop yelling.
No,
please.
It's not ancestral, right? That population group, ancestral, because we don't know what they are. We're talking about human migrations. So proto, when they say proto,
hold on, one thing at a time. So if somebody is your ancestor, that means you descend from them, correct?
Correct.
So when you say we are descendants of Asians, now you're trying to flip
Ancestral.
it, saying, oh my God, anybody in the chat just see what he just did there?
I'm just telling you, ancestral, because when you're
So
saying,
if
look,
you're
when you're
saying there
dropping
are
in,
ancestors, if you are saying Asians are our ancestors, you are saying we descend from them, correct?
What the science says, man.
no, wait. See, I was just explaining this, right? Whenever you drop the word ancestral, because what happens with people is they sit there and they go, oh, they're saying Asians, and they're thinking current. We're not talking about current. We're saying an ancestral population, ancestral, not Asians, because that's what you're doing. And you did it in the video that you said that we're not calling Asians. What you said in that video, and I showed it, what you said is this. When we said ancestral and I showed that, you go, you're saying we're descendants of Asians, so it's the same thing. No, it's not. We're not saying anything current or recent. We're saying whatever that population was called. Proto, you can say, they say proto-Indian, they say ancestral. That's what we're saying. Ancestral, not current.
Again, ancestral is the opposite of descendant. So when you say our ancestors were East Asian, you are saying we are descendant of East Asians. It's the same thing. Literally.
Okay,
the
so let
same
me
thing.
so let me ask you this, right? What do you call the population that was in Asia or Eurasia? What do you call them?
Early humans. They don't have a cultural group that we can call them because we have no proof of their cultural group.
How do we trace their ancestry then?
This is why haplogroups don't have, this is why haplogroups have letters to them, because they're not an actual population group that we can say what their culture was, what their phenotypes were, or what their languages are.
But we're not talking about the phenotype or their culture or anything.
Okay, but so you can't even say that they are ancient Asians, just like we can't say they are ancient Native Americans or ancient Africans. You can't say that. These are early humans in these time periods, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 years ago. They're early
do you
humans.
remember?
It says that.
So do you remember when we were going through the migration map, right? We were going through the map. So the people group, and I even told you, the people group that was in Asia or Eurasia. I always said the people group. We always said the people group. They call them ancestral. They call them proto. They gave them a name. You can't just say a human group. They say the ancestral population or ancestral and East Asian ancestral. What you're doing is you're trying to use the word ancestor and then and replace it with ancestral. That's why I'm saying you keep dropping off ancestral.
Right.
That's just for laymen. So people will know what the location is, where that haplogroup is, where it comes from. So when you're dropping off ancestral, and you did it like 10 times already.
Ancestral ancestors are the same thing when we're talking layman's terms. So please stop doing that. And that's number one.
Ancestry is about how you get your genetic material from. It's the genetic look of the past, tracing the lineages. So how else are we going to do that? By you know what I'm saying? That's exactly how they.
Yes, genetic ancestry. But when you say our ancestral population, or when you, because you guys have said this several times, your ancestral group, the ancestral Asians, the proto-Asians, that's not what they were. And
So,
that's the problem.
How are we going to look?
So wait, here we go. Here, I got something real quick. What does ancestral population mean?
You can say ancestral population. The problem is when you guys say ancestral, you guys come from ancestral Asians.
No. What does ancestral population mean?
An ancestral population is just a population of human beings. We don't know which culture they were. We don't know what race they were because race was not a construct then. It is a construct now. We don't know what languages they spoke to say that their languages correspond with ours. We don't know anything about anybody's phenotypes. All we can prove with genetics is that there was diverse phenotypes going on. Just like in Africa, we can prove that there were light-skinned and dark-skinned Africans that were there. We can't prove what people look like. Hold on. We cannot prove what people look like 30,000 years ago. We cannot prove what cultures they were from 30,000 years ago. And we cannot assign, and this is the problem, and this is what science is currently working on, that I've told you guys several times before, that they're working on changing their terminology because of the confusion it causes, that they're working on getting everybody within all science disciplines to use the same terminology, because ancestry means something different to the layman. It means something different in anthropology. It means something different to historians, and it means something different in genetic population studies. So when we're talking about ancestral populations, that's fine. You can say ancestral populations came from this region. That's not a problem. But you got to make sure when you speak on these things. No, you didn't. You said our ancestors, literally in Port City's video that I debunked, said that we are descendants, or our ancestral population is Asian.
Well, if it's not,
there you
where
go.
is it then?
Ancestral population is in Asia.
Yeah, if it's not in Asia, where is it
No.
then?
He said is Asian, not in Asia, is Asian. He said you guys come from East Asians. That's what he said.
Your ancestral population.
Ancestry is like, it's all about your genetic material, where it comes from. Okay, is a genetic look at the past. It tracks all of your lineages, mitochondrially speaking. So when we go back to the A2 or the C1 subclade, we have to go exactly to see where that mother haplogroup originated from. And guess what? We're gonna be in the region that we now call East Asia today. And that's where the genetic gene pool of the East Asians started from. Those East Asians migrated to northern Siberia. And when they came together, they created a subclade group, which is the Native Americans. In order for scientists to trace this back, they have to take your mitochondrial DNA to look at this stuff. And that's all they have to do. And that's what we're saying. I'm not saying you're East Asian, but the genetic gene pool that you guys have originated there. It is what it is on that one. Okay. Just like we tell these African Americans who like to wear hot feather glue and shit in their head that your ass is from motherfucking Africa because your genetic DNA. We had fucking Chief Natural on here, and we all know his ass from fucking Africa, and that's what, because he took a DNA test and his mitochondrial shit go back to West Africa. So we can call that brother out. We should be able to use this science to just make facts what they are.
So first of all, he showed an autosomal test, not a mitochondrial test. That's number one. Number two, again, you just said East Asians. You just said it. East Asian population, you guys share the same East Asian population. They were not.
There's continuity. It's called genetic continuity, Brown Girl Pride. It's genetic. No. You share genetic continuity with a population that originated from East Asia.
Yes. Okay. So again, as human beings, we also share that with Africans. We share that with Europeans. We share that with everybody. Has that.
Right. But the signal is stronger with you guys in East Asia.
Not necessarily.
Yes, it is.
Hold on.
So can I tell y'all a definition real quick?
No. Let me finish. First of all, you're homogenizing all Native Americans within the Western Hemisphere. That's number one. That's number one.
How about when what's his name? Singing Bear.
I'm not done. I listen to you.
Don't bring up.
First of all, you're putting all Native Americans within the Western Hemisphere under this. That's number one. Number two, there are groups in Australasia, Australia, New Zealand, and so forth that have the same parent haplogroups. There are groups in Africa. There are groups in Europe. There are groups in Asia that have the same ABC haplogroups. And maybe not so much D or X, but at least A, B, and C. But we're not going around. Hold on. We're not going around calling all of these other groups descendants of Asians, or their ancestral population groups are Asian, because their ancestral population groups are also not Asian.
Okay, I just want to add.
People were not Asian. Early human beings were not Asian. They were not African. They were not European, and they were not Native American. They were hunter-gatherer groups. Early human beings. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't know their cultures, and you guys are
correct.
But we can trace their genetic gene pool back to a population that we now call East Asia, though.
I have a quick ad here.
Common sense, man.
I have a port, please. I have a quick ad here. We're not going to be bringing up. I heard somebody say Singing Bear said, we're not going to be doing that here because he's not here. We can't answer for him.
No, I'm not. Look, I'm not. He can speak for himself. But what I will mention is he did take a genetic DNA test, and he subscribes to the same science that I'm talking about. And his haplogroup is C1, and that's a subclade haplogroup. C originated in East Asia. It'll tell you that when you take a DNA test.
Understandable.
But a lot of natives, hold on. But a lot of natives that are doing their DNA aren't showing any of that.
Wait,
right. So hold on. Let me explain why.
Hold on. No. That's the problem. Is that Seaport City, which you did on your first original video that I debunked, is that you use an autosomal test to compare to mitochondrial testing to haplogroups. Autosomal tests that we take from these commercial tests, 23andMe, Ancestry.com, whatever commercial tests you take, they're not showing your ancient groups, which is why they have separate tests. They have autosomal testing, and then they have mitochondrial testing. What you did was you compared.
Right. That's not true.
That is true. That is
so listen.
Hold on. Don't you cut me off. I'm not done.
All right, go ahead.
So, because on 23andMe, you can literally order an autosomal test. And if you want to order a mitochondrial test, you can order a separate test because those are two different types of DNA that you're testing. So when you're showing an autosomal test and then comparing it and saying, see, guys, I told you, this percentage corresponds to what I've been saying about ancestral groups and mitochondria, you're wrong. Because that's not what these commercial tests are showing. And I've explained this, and I've showed the proof of these tests showing that they only go back so far. They're not going back into ancient DNA. They're only going back to the last couple hundred years, 200 to 500 years, depending on which commercial test you're taking. Autosomal DNA is not comparable to mitochondrial DNA. Those are two different types of DNA. Now you can speak.
You don't really
it gets some autosomal genetics from East Asia.
Hold on. Port. So Nativemamaz, right? So this is the thing. When some natives are taking the test, right? And this is going to answer both questions. What they're doing is they're taking Ancestry. Ancestry does not give you haplogroups, just like BGP said, right? But now 23andMe, you don't have to pay extra. There is no extra fee, right? Like mine, I've taken them both, 23andMe, and I've also taken Ancestry. Looked at them both. When you take 23andMe, it gives you the haplogroup in it, right? What it also does, it tells you about those ancestral or ancient populations, right? So when you're looking at that, so like mine, I think mine was like L3 and then whatever, but you get that in the test. Ancestry doesn't do that. So, and then it gives you a story on human migration. It gives you the whole story in that.
Did they find an issue with that gen match stuff? Like there was some kind of
states on the website
I don't
it is
mess
not
with
accurate.
Match,
it does state
I don't like using it.
Yeah,
I don't like using the gen match myself.
On the website.
Yeah.
But 23andMe gives you haplogroup. I can show you that. I've taken that test. But what happens is you have a lot of people that only take one test. You're not going to get it off of Ancestry. Right? So it's a little different. All these tests are different. I think there's only like maybe two tests that does it. And then even I've seen BGP mention the African ancestry test, and that one's more expensive. Like I haven't done that one, but that one is you can pay separate for, or actually it's just that. But it's how these tests are geared. So if you have a lot of people, like I prefer Ancestry because you can mess with records. That's the only thing. I don't look at the percentages because everyone is looking and reading those percentages wrong.
Okay, so for when you first did this, started this thing, what was the point of doing that anyway? Was it, I mean, you guys were trying to make the pretendians, do DNA tests? Where
No, I
most of
mean,
them won't
like,
even accept it?
it wasn't about that. It was just proving the science. It's basically proving who we are and proving who you guys are. And where,
Yeah,
that's what the whole origin of it. Because we never touched genetics. We were talking about everything. We were talking about culture. It was a lot of leadership and stuff. And I said, well, where do we need to go from here to help us out? And genetics was the next level. And mitochondrially speaking, that was the next best thing to plot out the origins of Americans and to exclude any African Americans that's trying to say it. If we don't have any genetic fingerprints over here, we can't make that claim. And I figured that was a good way of doing it. I never meant to disrespect or hurt anybody on that side at all. So if it was taken that way, I will apologize about that. But I'm not gonna leave the science on the door. It is like I'm gonna stay in my way. Go ahead.
I find it kind of weird that, we have no kind of connection to the people over there. They have none to us, nothing. Like, no, they don't even understand us when we talk our language.
Call it divergence. You guys diverged from the group.
We aren't even testing it.
Yes,
you guys diverged.
Hold on.
You diverged from a group. And you know what divergence means? Divergence means you separated from one group and you became isolated for an amount of time. And that's right. You guys did have your own autonomy here. You had a divergence.
Let me say one thing, BGP. No, let me say one thing. The thing is that we are not testing. You know who is testing? The Alaskan Natives and the surrounding areas of Alaska. That's the only ones that are testing.
You do have some other groups that are testing because that's how we have all of these haplogroups. You do have some that are.
But I'm saying that there was a video where you said that we were all Asian. We're not all Asian. I
never said you guys were all Asian.
You said
that. I didn't say that. I'm specific in my words say the origin genetic gene pool that created the natives originated in East Asia. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you guys are. I'm saying like everybody know that Native Americans have their own culture, their own autonomy here. But you guys diverge from a group that originated in East Asia is what I'm saying.
What we're saying is, yes, they are testing Asian, but the fact is that they're not going much further outside of Alaska. And even the Alaskan natives are not all testing Asian. There are some that are testing Siberian. There's some that aren't.
Wait, hold on. This is where things are getting confused at because autosomal is different from mitochondrial. That's the thing. Most people are taking autosomal tests. So Ancestry did used to charge separate for both different tests. So, or 23andMe used to charge separate for 2 different tests. Now they don't do that. So, but it does say their standard DNA test analyzes both types of DNA. There are 2 different types of DNA. Mitochondrial and autosomal are not the same type. Mitochondrial takes you back to your ancient. When we're talking ancient, showing those haplogroups. But they're inferring, what these tests are inferring is racial or cultural identity onto the people. And that is a problem. There are studies that talk about this, that this is a problem. Because you cannot infer those racial groups or cultural groups like the terms Asian and African, European and Native American onto early human beings. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't know what cultures they practiced. There were hunter-gatherer groups. They had significantly different cultures than those people when we started settling into agricultural groups. That's number 1. Number 2, autosomal is showing with these tests, these commercial tests, autosomal is showing your most recent ancestry. Not your race, not your ethnicity. It's showing where your most recent ancestors are coming from within the last 200 to 500 years. They are separate DNAs. You cannot compare an autosomal DNA to a mitochondrial DNA because there's not the same type of DNA. They come from different parts of the DNA structure. Mitochondrial and Y DNA comes from the sex chromosomes, the X and the Y. Autosomal comes from the non-sex chromosomes, the other 23 chromosomes that we carry. Those are separate types of DNA. It's all DNA, but they're different types. Now, when we're talking about how far it goes back to, because Rob likes to sit here and argue with me on this. When we're sitting here talking about this, yes, it goes to a reference panel. So let me explain this as very clearly as possible. When we're looking at autosomal testing, what we're looking at is that they have taken reference panels. So they take a group of people who have been in a particular region for 4 to 6 generations, depending on the test. And then they take that and they put it in their database. Then someone like me or someone like you goes and takes a DNA test, and then they compare that. So the SNPs, they're looking at those little pieces of DNA that match to those reference panels. The smaller the SNPs, the very little of the SNPs, because of a thing called, whatchamacallit, my mind just went blank. What is it, Lala, that I said yesterday? Recombination. Because of recombination, what recombination means is when you have a child, it splits in half. And when those kids have a child, it splits in half again. And when those children have a child, it splits in half again. So when you're looking at that, you're only getting a certain percentage from your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents. So my grandparents, I'm only getting about 25% of their DNA randomly passed down to me. The other 75% of their DNA is not getting passed down to me because of recombination, because it keeps splitting in half. So the smaller the percentages is most likely occurring to ancestors who are further back in time. That's what that means. And it says this when we're talking about autosomal DNA. Now, it's not fully accurate because everybody has admixture. This is assuming people are pure, but there's no such thing as pure. So this is assuming people are pure because a lot of people have admixture from many different regions, and this has been going on for thousands of years. So when we're talking about what they're referencing to a panel of people somewhere, and they're saying, hey, a percentage of your DNA is coming from here. Now, if most of your DNA is coming from here, that means most of your relatives are coming from this region. If a small percentage is coming from over here, that means these ancestors that you had were further back in time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations because of how those percentages are recombined. We're not getting all of that. And even then, I showed this with my brother's DNA versus my DNA. I have 41%, since you guys love to push this. I have 41 Spanish DNA, but my brother has 31% because it's so randomly passed down. And we have the same mother and father. So even though we share 50-50 from our mother and father, what gets passed down is random, and I can get more from one side and he can get less from one side. So using these DNA tests to determine one's race or one's ethnicity is pseudoscience. All it's determining is that you got ancestors that came from this region. And it's not going to show all your ancestors because not all of the DNA is being passed down to you. You only get 12.5% from your great-grandparents. So the other 80-something% is not being passed down from your great-grandparents. You're only getting 6% from your great-great-grandparents. So the other 94% of your great-great-grandparents' DNA is not being passed down. So you're not going to see a whole picture. These are snapshots. And even with mitochondrial DNA, you're looking at one line, my mother's line. But you're not going to see my father's mother's line in my DNA. But that's still part of me. My father's mother's line is still a part of me, but you're not going to see it in my DNA. All you're going to see is my mother's line. So we see this when we're looking at genetic studies, especially in Mesoamerica, where the European man came in and raped a lot of Native women, that a lot of Native men have a Native, quote unquote, haplogroup, but a European Y haplogroup. Are you guys, that European Y haplogroup doesn't mean that they're from Europe, and it doesn't mean that they're European either. You understand?
No, but the Native American haplogroups A, B, C, D, Q, and X all originated in East Asia. That's what we're specifically talking about. And when you talk about autosomal, I'm gonna let you finish real quick, Rob. When you talk about autosomal genetics, those genetics are inherited from East Asia too. There's a gene called EDAR that is specific variant common among East Asians and Native Americans. It's believed to have played a role in adaptation to cold environments. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about mitochondrial lineages. That's it. Go ahead, Rob. My bad, man.
All right, so look, I'm gonna show you what this test actually is, because I've said, I've taken it. So I'm not gonna bring up a Google or anything like that. I have taken this test, and this is what I'm telling you. After studying these tests, I've taken both Ancestry and this one. I've also looked at varying other tests and actually asked other people that take the test so I can actually look at it. So whenever, I'm sorry, there is no inference of ethnicity and none of that when it comes to migration. This is why. This tells you about L, right? Whenever you take the 23andMe, it's going to give you this. So it's going to tell you that if every living person today can trace his or her maternal line back over thousands of generations, all of her lines would meet at a single woman who lived in Eastern Africa between 150,000 and 200,000 years. So it's going to go over a story. As you go through, it's going to tell you the origins, migrations of the haplogroups, right? So since mine's L3D, it's going to tell you that, right? Then it's going to come down, and then L3D1D, and it's going to tell you this. No inference. It says that's nearly 960 generations ago. What happened between then and now? As researchers and citizen scientists discover more about your haplogroup, new details may be added to the story. And then it goes and it tells you this, right? So with these tests, whenever, I'm not sure what the fascination by saying, what their culture is and everything else. That's not what science is doing. It's telling you about human migrations of this. So when you're looking at your mtDNA line, it's not going to go of your father's mother. The reason being is that's not the nature of an mtDNA. The reason why they pick the mtDNA is because that one doesn't really change, and it goes down from mother to mother to mother, just like the Y goes father to father to father. You don't have multiple of those. It's those particular lines when you're looking at DNA. So that's how they can trace these migrations, is because it doesn't change. All the other stuff does, especially when you add an admixture, right? So that's going to be different from this. I'm trying not to show my own name and dox myself, but just like these, right? So let me show you. And this is why I tell you, people don't read these correctly. These are the percentages, right? These can change. So it's not saying I am 42% Nigerian. No, it's saying that segment they tested, it's a small segment of your DNA. When they test that, they assign it 42%. But when you actually go into it and look at it, it tells you the range. So it can go down to 39 and up to 54. So this is one indication that it is not your actual DNA. It's matching you to that reference panel. So when you're saying BGP, and I've explained to this multiple times, when you keep adding your grandmothers and how it splits, yes, that is correct, but that's the wrong test. What you're referring to is matches, right? Because in matches, here, I'm not going to put my mother on here.
I'm not referring to that.
Wait. So when it comes to matches, this is the part where you go the halves and where it splits. That's where this comes from. That's different.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Hold on. Wait.
Do not tell me what I'm referring to.
Wait a minute. Because wait a minute. I'm telling you what people are doing. So when you see these percentages, again, these percentages
real quick.
are not.
Let's just
say again.
Let's just refrain from saying what you're saying. Let's not do that. Just continue your presentation without saying.
Okay. So what a lot of people are doing, and this is common, trust me, it's common. I can show you another one where someone literally went through about 7 tests and they explain what's messed up about how people are reading it. These are just like, this can go from 0 to 27%. This is not your actual, what your grandparents or anything like that. This is just saying to that reference population. Then from that indication, then you go into your genealogy and you can try to find it, but that's what it is. Has nothing to do with it. No, this is Ancestry. And then I showed you what 23andMe looks like.
Okay, so that 39 to 50, what was it, percent? Was that GEDmatch, or why is there such a range? the previous page where
Oh, this one?
38, yeah, where it says 38 to 54%. Is that GEDmatch, or why is that? What's that range there for?
That's
39.
where this number can go up and down.
So is that GEDmatch? Is that
No,
because
this is Ancestry.
I understand with GEDmatch you can adjust the number to go up and down.
No, this is Ancestry. So when they do an update, your numbers can go, because there's been quite a few people that their percentages change. That's why. That's not your DNA changing. That's an algorithm in the program and how they're looking at data.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm getting my iPad out.
So it's each one. But this is Ancestry. It's not GEDmatch. It's literally Ancestry.
I didn't
So
realize
Molly,
it was a different thing. I thought it was a branch of Ancestry.com.
so that's what it is. These are not your I'm 4% Norway. No, it's saying the segment they tested matches the reference panel in Norway. That's what that means. See, 1%, and it can go to 3%. That's what it means.
So these people
And
that with let's say 10%, that's not even their ethnicity.
it's saying that, right? It's saying 10% of what they tested matches the reference panel in whatever it is.
And each company have a different group of samples. Like African Ancestry have the largest African sample.
Yep. So here, I can even show you.
And
this one's going to look different.
I see a lot of people saying DNA is useless. It is not useless. A lot of people have gotten out of jail because of DNA. A lot of people have been put in jail because of DNA. It's not useless.
Okay,
and
but
then that's different.
Not conflate the difference between paternal testing and ancestry testing. Those are different things. And what ancestry testing is showing where your ancestors are coming from. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when it's not showing anybody's race or it's not showing anybody's ethnicity. My iPad is charging, so it'll be a second. So when I'm talking about those percentages, Rob, when I'm talking about those percentages, they're only looking at autosomal DNA. That's it, right? Can we agree to that?
Yeah, it's autosomal, yes.
Okay, and autosomal is different from mitochondrial, correct?
Yeah, two different functions, yes.
Okay, so when we're looking at percentages, they are comparing your DNA to a reference panel, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a larger percentage is going to show your more recent, because of how recombination works, because you're going to get more. Hold on. You're getting more DNA from your parents. Okay, let me ask you this question. Are you getting more DNA from your parents than you are from your grandparents?
You're going into two different things.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you a question. Do you get more DNA from your parents than you get from your grandparents?
You get 50-50 from your parents.
And how much DNA gets passed down to you from your grandparents?
What, by the chart, it should be about what, 12.5?
25% from your grandparents.
Yeah, 12.5.
25% from your grandparents.
Yes. And you split that in half, it's 12.5, yes.
That you're no. 12.5.
Yes, 12.5 in half from your grandmother and your grandfather, 12.5. You cut it in half.
No.
25.
You get 12.5% from your great grandparents. So you're getting half from your parents, you cut it in half, you get 25% from your grandparents.
Right. So if you cut that in half, because from your grandmother's 12.5, from your grandfather's 12.5, 25.
No, it's not. It's 25% in total from all four grandparents. You have four grandparents, not two grandparents. You have four grandparents. So you're getting a total of 25% coming from all four grandparents. You get a total of 12.5% coming from great grandparents. You get a total of 6% coming from great grandparents.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we understand that with each generation, it cuts in half, okay? Those percentages, those SNPs, those markers, you're going to get smaller SNPs from people further back in your generations because you're only getting a smaller percentage of that DNA passed down. So let's say I have a great grandparent, or we'll keep it easy, a great grandparent who's African. I'm not going to show 60% African DNA. I'm going to show probably around anywhere between 6 to 12% African DNA. Correct?
You're mixing up both the tests.
No, I'm not. I'm not even talking
No, you should. No.
How am I mixing it up?
The reason, because this is what I'm saying. Those percentages, right? You're going on to genetics. Those percentages are literally just saying like a segment. Just think of it this way, right? A pen, right? You spit out a pen. So you grab that pen and you look at the reference panel. How much does this pen match to this panel? 60%. Okay, now go to the next one. How much more does this one? 10% and all the way to 100%. That's literally what it is.
Okay,
it's not your parent. It's the panel.
No, it is. Okay, listen to me closely. So when we're looking at the percentages, my mother is going to pass down a certain percentage of DNA to me. My father is going to pass down a certain percentage of DNA to me. 50% from both parents, right? Okay. So if let's say my mother, well, let's talk in like as if everybody is full-blooded. There's no such thing as admixture. If my mother was Native American and my father is African, my mother should have 100% Native American DNA and my father should have 100% African DNA. When they combine down and I am born, my DNA is going to show a percentage range of anywhere between 40 to 50% Native or 40 to 50% African. Correct?
Oh my goodness. Listen. Yes, that part is correct, but it's two separate things that you're talking about.
No, we're going to go through this step by step because I want you guys to understand this because you guys are conflating things, not me. So when we're talking about DNA, if both of my parents are Native American, then I should also have, if they have 100% Native and my dad has 100% Native, then I should have 100% Native because I'm getting 50 and 50. But let's say my mom is half Native, half European, meaning her mother was European, her father was Native. So she's getting 50% from her mother, 50% from her father. So that's about 50-50.
Yes, all that's true.
Hold on. My dad, let's say he's African. So I'm getting about 50% African, and then I'm getting a percentage of what my mother and what my mother is, because her parents are European and Native. They were 100%. So now she's 50% of both. Now, 50% of both isn't going to be passed down to me. Only about 25% is going to be passed down to me. So my DNA will then show about 25% Native, 25% European, and about 50% African.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we keep going back in generations, because what it's showing to the reference panels, that each percentage, the higher you are, the closer to that region you are based off of that reference panel. But the smaller percentages that you're showing are percentages that are showing because that's the little bit of DNA that was passed down to you. You didn't get a large chunk of DNA passed down to you. You got a little bit of DNA passed down to you because that little bit of DNA came from a great-grandmother or a great-great-grandmother or father or whatever. It's coming from your greats because it's only a little bit because of recombination that's being passed down. It's not their whole DNA being passed down. It's only 25% or 12.5% or 6% being passed down to you. So then when you compare those little SNPs, those little parts of your DNA, and it's only a small percentage part. It's not from your mother that you got a small percentage part. It's from your great grandparents that you got a small percentage part from. Does that make sense?
Again, listen. And look, that part is correct, right? When you're talking about splitting, that part is correct. What I am telling you and what I keep saying, when you're looking at that first thing, they are just matching you to a reference panel. That's just like saying the very first person to ever take the test, they're going to have percentages because it's just saying how closely you are to that panel. That's it. It has nothing to do with how much you're getting from your parents. It's saying that your DNA is matched to this particular people in this area. How much do you match to them? From 0 to 100%. 50% you match this panel. 25% you match this panel. 10% you match this panel. 1% you match this panel. That's it. Has nothing to do with how much you're getting from your parents.
But why is that though? Why are you if everybody from your family is from one region, why would they get a small percentage from Africa?
Okay, I'm going to move on. JB, did you have anything to add that you would like to add? JB, your mic is off.
Okay. My apologies. I was trying to pull up an autosomal statistic chart to explain basically the reason why there's such a complicated matter that is at hand here. And Notorious BGP is trying to break it down to explain that autosomal statistics, it tests basically for both mitochondrial as well as chromosomal. Okay, so it's a different test. I'm not sure exactly why it's so hard for people to understand that you're dealing with a different test when you're dealing with autosomal statistics than mitochondrial DNA. It doesn't make sense. But just say the honest thing. If you don't understand it, say you don't understand it, okay? And listen to somebody who understands it better. Thank you.
Is that what you come up here to say? Because at the end of the day, I've been talking about migrations and mitochondrial DNA. So if anybody got to say anything about that, that's what I was talking about.
You don't know enough about that. You should leave it alone.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah, because you confused.
Prove me wrong. Because we're talking about. I come up here talking about. Can I talk real quick?
What city?
Yeah, that's you come up here to bash people. That's what you come up here to do.
All right, guys, we gotta be respectful. We're doing
come
good.
Up here to do to bash people.
Port, please be respectful as well, please.
Yeah, it takes one to know one down there.
What happened?
Just one at a time and be respectful. That's
my whole thing has been mitochondrial DNA and the peopling of America by mitochondrial DNA. The Pan-American haplogroups are A, B, C, D, Q, and X. And they originated in East Asia. And I stand by that. And the science stands behind that too.
You also stand behind Siberian Husky.
Yeah, see, there you go again. I've already, how many times I gotta, see, there you go.
You're the same person.
There you go.
Who also said that.
How many times I gotta apologize about some shit I said last year? Can you move on, sir? Can you move on, sir?
You're also the same person.
Can you move on, sir?
You're also the same.
Can you move on?
You're also the same person who said that 8.7% your Asian DNA shows that goes back 30,000 years. You got that completely wrong.
Tell me when I said that, first of all.
It says that. It shows
I never said, first of all, stop lying on what I said, bro.
You said that.
I said that Native Americans possessed a mitochondrial.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I got this. Port, calm down. Look, I'm gotta say this. If you're gonna say something about another person, you gotta come with the receipts. I just don't like people saying shit, because that's always happening to me. So
thank you.
If you got proof of it, then bring it and present it, but let's not spew it.
A rule on this panel is
that is my rule.
Just to bash people, yo. Like you can go that.
No, that's what I said. We gotta have receipts for that stuff. I'm not like your guys' lives, where you just let everybody just freestyle and talk shit on people. But anyways, just kidding. But anyways, yeah, if you got receipts on it, please bring it. If not, don't bring it up. Thank you. Sorry. Oh, the bird. Okay, go ahead. Who's going next? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from Javi. You got something to bring to this, or do you just want to sit up here? Javi, Javi, Javi.
Javi, do you have something to say, Javi? No? Okay.
No, okay. We'll just just drop her. Okay. All right.
I have a
So
quick question.
sure.
Are we an African species?
What?
Are we an
Oh my
African
god.
species?
No, you're humans. We're
Right.
all humans.
Well, I'm asking that for a reason.
We're a human species that derived out of what is now Africa. Yes.
Okay, Javi, no, go away. You had your chance.
Okay. So you see how that was two different things, right? So Native Vibes, you said no. And BGP, you said it's what's now known as Africa, which we all say in layman's term, Africa. I mean, let's just stop with it wasn't called this before. Everybody knows that. But we all have to reference a point.
I'm done. I'm done with this hair splitting. You know what? We're all humans.
Well, that is true.
Let's just accept it as that.
What he's trying to do is he's trying to say I purposely didn't show something on a video, which it didn't have anything to do with what I was talking about. I was talking about what genetic isopoint was, which you and I watched the lives when you did it. You didn't play the whole thing, which explains exactly what I've been saying. That
we
when we're
know that
talking
part.
when we're talking about genealogical ancestry and even genetic ancestry, when we're talking about these things, especially genealogical ancestry, even genetic ancestry, we're only going to go back as far as about 3,500 years. We all share the same ancestors, about 3,500 years, because we had
He
these
actually didn't say
isopoints.
that, but
I mean, you want me to pull it up since you don't like to play full videos and you like to misconstrue,
yeah.
you like to cut things off when it
No,
starts to prove me
I
right.
just no. Look, BGP. Look, you
That's what
got to
you
stop
do.
doing that. The
No,
reason,
but
listen.
you're not
You
gonna
got to
gaslight
stop.
me.
No. Listen. I'm telling you. Look, this is just facts, right? The reason why I didn't play that is because I was asked not to. When he was getting strikes for playing the whole video, that's the only reason why I did that. So stop insinuating stuff. That's exactly what it was. He
You
kept
didn't play
saying
the
in the
whole video
background
on
of his.
YouTube either.
Hold on. BGP, when we were on the TikTok, when I was showing that video, I couldn't because he was getting strikes.
No, he
So
was
stop
not.
accusing people of stuff. Yes, he
No,
was.
he didn't
He
say nothing
literally
about
said,
that. No, he didn't.
BGP, listen,
Why are you
he
lying?
literally said when he was playing that in the back end, he was getting that and he was getting shadow banned. So I did not play the full thing because of that.
He's not getting shadow banned. Stop the lies. And
I'm literally telling you what it
you didn't
was.
even play the whole video on YouTube when that 5 hours that you guys were on YouTube talking about me. You didn't play the whole
BGP,
video then either. Were you getting shadow banned on
BGP.
YouTube too?
That's what I was showing it on YouTube, was it? It was YouTube, right?
You're not getting shadow banned on YouTube. It's not the same thing as TikTok.
You
Shut up,
can't
stop
play.
that.
There is no. You get copyright infringements on YouTube.
So then why didn't you play it all on TikTok then?
Were we showing that on TikTok?
Yep.
Was I showing it on TikTok?
Yep.
It's probably because of the point. But no, he was saying he was getting shadow banned, and I did not play the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just gonna move on for a bit and just like take
I
a
can
breath.
play it now. I mean, it's not a thing. I can play it now. Like, I mean, it's not really a thing.
Take
That up too, 'cause my
right
things-
for a sec. Davi, do you have anything to say? This is your last chance. You keep requesting
Yeah.
up.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me
Yes.
now? Okay,
Yes.
for some reason I kind of got muted there. My thing wasn't coming back on. Anyway, I was listening to the first part, or a few minutes back, on what was being discussed regarding ancestry, and it was kind of the discussion that you made was ancestry, and I can't recall. I think it was something like about descendants. So I think the factor that's not being looked at is that of ascendancy. So what I mean by that is that we all have descendants, or we all come from a cultural background, but we are what our ancestors were looking to achieve at one point. So I'm an descendant of natives or Native Americans. So of course some of my cultural values are not exactly the same as they had back then, but they also didn't really understand a lot of things. So they were ascending into the cultural world that they were in. And as they were being influenced by external wars and, different migrants, then they ascended into something else, which is what leads us into now. So I still consider myself to be native, and I know some of the cultural values that we had back then. Some of them I don't practice at all, but I do know where they came from. So when we talk about DNA, which is, you also mentioned about the phenotypes, that's where I stand right now, because we got to separate between what it was in the past, in the recent past, where we were talking about colorism. And colorism is kind of like obsolete now in favor of DNA, because we realize that we all belong to one race. It's the human race. But we have different phenotypes within that. So that's what makes us different, because of the regions that we live in and because of the surviving phenotypes that they have. Obviously, I show in my DNA that that I have black DNA also, but I don't have the phenotypes. But I do have a historical past that I can reference to know that there was African immigration to the area where I was, or where my ancestors lived. So for that reason, I consider myself to be a part of that, or them to be a part of my ancestry, if you follow what I'm saying. I might be the exception rather than the rule, because most natives that I know of refuse to accept that. And yet they're willing to accept that they have European ancestry or Asian ancestry, because that's the way that the culture was cultivated. So anyway, I'm going to stop there. If you have anything else that you want to add on to that.
Hi. Okay, Mao, did you want to say something?
Hello, everybody. My name's Okamau. I just wanted to add a few things in here. I kind of have a unique perspective on the traditional native Cree. I grew up with my culture, grew up with my ways, and also participated with a bunch of other tribes with their ceremonies, and was able to make a lot of good friends all over the place. But at the same time, I went to university and have a degree in anthropology with focus on my master's for cultural anthropology in regards to research for our people. And so I've always had a problem with my professors when I was going to college. I always argue with them about different aspects of our culture and the importance of it. And as I said in the comments, a lot of different universities now are actually looking at indigenous knowledge and TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, to further their research when it comes to different timelines, different theories that are going on within the Western construct of science. But at the same time, that Western construct has always been racist, and they've always wanted to set their narrative. And as these older anthropologists and archaeologists move on or retire, you have a new set of people coming in that are willing to look at how Native culture and the importance of our traditions play a role in setting new timelines and looking at different aspects of our people when it comes to being on this continent.
Real quick. Okay, Mao, are you able to speak louder? People in the comments are saying they can't hear you.
Okay, hold on a second.
Is that better? So, as I was saying, like I said, I have that unique experience where being a traditional person, I came in and followed my culture, followed my ways, participated with several other tribes with their culture, and at the same time, going to school and having a degree in anthropology with my master's and a focus for cultural anthropology and looking at different aspects of Western science. And I've always had problems with my professors and and arguing with them when it comes to different aspects of our culture and our traditions. But at the same time, like I said, different universities are looking at our indigenous knowledge, our TEK, or traditional ecological knowledge, and looking at that and helping them to change the narrative or to add to the actual theories and research that are going on today. And so, there's several different occasions where our people can have different knowledge of areas that predate any other sites or any theories that place us here at certain times or on the timeline that is currently pushed at this time by Western science. And as we know, Western science is racist within itself, and they only want to see carbon dating or dating between this date and that date. Anything older than they suspect it's going to be a false positive or a false carbon dating. And so, there's always going to be that racism, but at the same time, we have stories from different tribes that talk about, especially when you look at the coastal tribes, they have a story of the Three Sisters mountain range. And that Three Sisters mountain range was a single mountain. Before that, it was actually a caldera. And that caldera was placed there over 150,000 years ago before it collapsed and actually became the Three Sisters Mountains. And they have stories that correlate with that timeline, showing that they had knowledge of the time that caldera collapsed and those three mountain ranges were formed. And so, a lot of times we want to continue to push this narrative of the Western science and the theories that they want to push out there, and they want to perpetrate against our people and other peoples. But at the same time, we need to think outside the box and look at things with a different view, because science is continuously changing. The timelines are continuously changing, and the theories are continually changing. There's even a new site in Europe that placed early hominid species there at 8.7 million years old, which predates any current sites in Africa by at least a couple million. Hold on, I'm not finished. I let other people speak, and so I'm not done yet. And so this site is dated at 8.7 million years old, and so you look at the different emergence theories, and so that theory places it more of a European emergence theory, and in their geological record, they find the different bones of warthogs and giraffes and the fauna at that time. And with that theory, with placing that the hominid species there, it shows that they were in a forest desert-like area, and because environmental changes happened, they're pushed south into the African area. And so to think outside the box, to look at different theories that are out there, and actually not be trapped by the Western construct of this is what the theory says, this is what is truth, when there's always going to be changes in these theories. And like I said, 8.7 million years compared to emergence in Africa 5 to 7 million years ago. And so we really need to look at these things and actually look at the science before and the racism within it, before we actually want to push these agendas for them, because the emergence theory they have now is what fits their agenda. What is not actually always there in truth when it comes to several sites that are now being discovered and being pushed forward to change the narrative that a lot of people look at or believe as 100% true all the time. And so I'm actually traveling, so I'm probably going to lose everybody here. But I just wanted to come up and add a few comments to the conversation. And like I said, there's always new studies, there's new science coming out, and in the Native American side within the Western Hemisphere, they're actually looking at us because of our TEK and our indigenous knowledge to place these timelines and change the narrative. So I believe Stanford and several other universities are actually teaching TEK now and indigenous science as part of their archaeological and anthropology study courses. So thank you all very much. Akamemok, try hard, and have a good day. Thank you.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
Like to rebuttal?
As far as 8 million year old hominids in Europe, I'd like to see that. As far as human life's concerned, all of the oldest hominids have been found within Africa, going back before Australopithecus. And So I'd like to see that. I'm not doubting it. I just like to see it. I don't really got nothing else to say. My whole argument, if there is one, is just the peopling of Americas. I'm not saying you guys are East Asian, but I will say that the gene pool that created in East Asia was the peopling of America. It's just a genetic connection, a genetic continuity that is shared during the mitochondrial line and the Y line. Both of those groups come from East Asia.
I personally think because we have a lot of landmass that is not explored in the America, so we can't write it off just yet. You know,
I'm up to science. If anything that's out there new, I'm willing to look at it. Just like Brown Girl Pride put an old post about me reading Ivan Van Sertima's book, and that's one point in time of view that I had back then.
Okay.
But I am.
So I just read an article. I read the title. I didn't go through it. That they found 130,000-year-old skeleton or pieces of skeleton in California. So that's
that's the mammoth bones. But
is it the mammoth bones? Oh, okay.
That's the mammoth bones. But I do want to show this video from a geneticist who explains genetic isopoint. And I'm going to start it from where Rob says that I purposefully, because I don't dispute out of Africa theory. I can show old videos where I don't dispute out of Africa theory. And just to be clear, so people understand, out of Africa theory only pertains to Homo sapiens sapiens. It does not pertain to other hominid species. That's all out of Africa theory is pertaining to is Homo sapiens sapiens. With that being said,
That's us though, right?
I'm sorry, what?
That's us though, right? Homo sapiens sapiens, us, right?
Yes,
humans?
human beings. Yes,
Okay.
Human beings.
Okay.
Yes, not Neanderthals, not Denisovans, not anything else, not other hominids. Human beings as of now, and when we became Homo sapiens sapiens. All right, so I'm gonna play the whole thing.
Now, the reason for this is because, well, humans move around. When we draw pictures of human evolution, we draw them in broad maps like these what I refer to as Dad's Army maps. These are absolutely true. We are an African species in origin. The monogenists were right, although wrong in every single detail. We now know that we are a species who evolved initially in Africa, possibly a sort of Gestalt species out of Africa. The oldest Homo sapiens are from Morocco now, about 300,000 years ago. Most of the specimens are from the Rift Valley in the east of Africa. We know that around about 70 to 80,000 years ago, a population, a relatively small population of Homo sapiens migrated out of Africa, and it is from that population that the rest of the world was populated. Now, that is all correct, and this map is correct. But what it doesn't show is the details. This is a geological timescale we're looking at here. The arrows are correct in showing the overall trends in human migration, but in fact they don't show what really happens, which is wherever humans move, they have sex and admixture occurs, which means that the concepts of racial purity and the concepts of a population being isolated for any period of time just fall apart upon any analysis. And this is what we see by looking at modern genetic diversity in the 21st century. So let me talk about racial purity, because this is another issue. This is the second issue, and one that I think is of great importance in trying to understand where we're at with genetics and race today. So one of the most common preconceptions or misconceptions about humans and humans' ancestry is this idea of genealogical or racial purity. As I said, we are a monogenic species in principle. We do have come out of Africa. But the fact of the matter is that there is a sort of mathematical problem which is completely obvious when it's pointed out, which completely undermines any concept of genealogical or racial purity. And it's a simple fact, which is that all people have two parents, and all people throughout the entirety of history have had two parents, with the possible exception of Jesus. Now, what that means is that on your family tree, the number of ancestors that you have doubles each generation back into the past. So you have two parents, four grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and so on. Now, what that means is for every individual in this room, that if you go back to approximately the 10th century, then the number of ancestors you have, say 40 generations, is going to be 2 to the power of 40, which is that.
Amazon hates this, but there's nothing they can do to stop it. There's a new electric lighter out there, and it's got the firepower.
It's about 1,000 times more people than have ever existed. So obviously that is a problem, that each individual has more ancestors than all the people that have ever existed.
Okay, so that's just 40 generations. 40 generations is getting that number. 30,000 years is beyond 40 generations.
But the resolution of this is actually pretty straightforward. The truth is that you have that number of positions on your family tree, but after a few generations, those positions begin to be occupied by the same people multiple times. I'm not talking about inbreeding in the sense, well, I'm from Suffolk, so I can talk about inbreeding with a degree of authority. But if you keep going on this model, then this is actually a more accurate look at what a family tree looks like, which is after a few generations back, branches begin to cross, and they cross through individuals multiple times. And the math that falls out of this is a concept called the genetic isopoint, which is if you go back far enough, all lines of all ancestry cross through all people at a particular point in time. So another way of phrasing, this is a pretty tricky concept to get your head around, but another way of saying this is at the genetic isopoint, the population alive at that time is the ancestor of everyone alive today if they have descendants who are alive today. Yes? Very good.
So basically what he's saying is if we go back to where the genetic isopoint is, everybody who was alive then, and if they had children, not the ones that didn't have children, are the ancestors of everybody who is alive right now. Okay? Keep going.
Now, when the isopoint is calculated for the population of Europe, this was done in 2001 by Joseph Chang and then sort of verified by genetics in the last few years, the number comes out as the 10th century. So what that means is in Europe, if you're alive in the 10th century and you have descendants who are alive today, then you are the ancestor of everyone alive today in Europe. So all branches of all family trees cross through all people at this time. The genetic isopoint for the entirety of the world comes out as the 14th century BC, so about 3,500 years ago. So what that means is that all people alive in the 14th century BC who have descendants who are alive today are the ancestors of all humans alive today. That is a remarkably modern convergence that has occurred in our evolution. The concept of racial purity or separation of populations for any distinct period of time sort of falls apart with that type of maths. Now, how many of you have done genetic ancestry tests? How many of you have paid 100 quid and spat in a tube? Quite a few of you. So 23andMe is the most popular. I don't think any of us in genetics really anticipated quite how popular these would become. We estimate that 27 million have been sold in the last 10 years or so. Now, I've been pretty critical of these tests in general in my work. They don't really tell you about your ancestry because that's not really a thing that is possible to do with science. What they do is they tell you where on earth there are people who have DNA which is similar to yours, and we infer ancestry from that. Now, this is mine. It shows quite clearly that most of my DNA is associated with one of two places, Northern Europe. My dad was born in Yorkshire, and India. My mum was born in India. So this is entirely unsurprising. And I'm very glad I paid 120 quid to find out. But it doesn't... But the concept of the isopoint also indicates that, yes, the majority of my ancestors are likely to be either Indian or from Northwest Europe. But we also know that if you go back to the 10th century, my ancestors are all Europeans. And if you go back to the 14th century, then my ancestors are all humans. And that is the same for everyone. But that's not really a line that you can set.
So do you understand that just up to the 14th, back 3,500 years, we all, every single one of us, African, European, Asian, Native Americans, which is not 30,000 years ago, It's only 3,500 years ago. All share the same ancestors. That debunks you right there, just saying that Native Americans' ancestral population group is Asian. Just based off of that, because we're talking 30,000 years ago. So if my ancestors, my ancestral population ancestors are Asian, so are yours, Rob and Port City.
That's not what he said.
We have artifacts that are in America that date back to East Asia then.
That is exactly what he's saying. Because hold on.
So hold on.
I'm going to finish playing this. I'm going to finish playing this.
Look, I'm just going to help you out with something real quick. So when you're playing a long video like that, like I was asking people in the comment section as it was going on, do they agree on certain things? You're playing the thing the whole time, and you're not stopping to see, do people agree or not before you're playing the whole thing.
What is there to disagree with a geneticist?
So hold on.
You're actually asking people if they agree or disagree with a geneticist.
Right. So here, look.
Actually,
so this is why.
I asked him to clarify. He asked about the out of Africa theory.
Can you show us the leading geneticists in the people in Up America, though? That is not the leading geneticists in the people in Up America. I'm sorry, Rob, but go ahead, bro.
Yeah. So my point is this: you have a lot of people that don't agree on the out of Africa. When I went through the whole thing with you, somehow when it gets to the continent of Asia, you kind of glitch out.
No, I don't glitch out. Because what I'm trying to tell you.
This is what I'm saying. So watch.
No.
This is an example. Nativemamaz, do you agree that we all came from Africa?
We're not denying. I told you in the comments, like people are.
Yeah, because when you had answered me in the comments.
Oh yeah, I said no.
Right. So see, that's what I'm saying. There's contention.
I just go by my origin stories. That's all. Remember, I told you guys that.
Right. I know, and like I said, I understand that. But what I'm saying is there's contention. So when you're playing that whole video, there's a lot of people that are missing a lot of parts because they're not hearing everything. That's
I'm listening to it. I hear it.
Oh no! I'm not saying anything.
I'm stuck to my opinion.
I'm just saying. Look, no. Look at the comment section. There's multiple people that are not agreeing with that whole part.
Rob,
and you can see what some of the people are saying.
Rob, first of all, again, Homo sapiens.
One second, please.
Sapiens originate out of Africa. That does not mean that there were not other hominid species in other parts of the world. That does not mean that Homo sapiens did not intermix with other hominid species. There could have been other hominid species here. We don't know that because only about 10% of the Western Hemisphere has been excavated. And then there's going to be a lot of bones that have just disappeared, and we're never going to know because of places like the Amazon, where bones just don't hold up.
Homo sapiens originated in Africa, not outside of Africa.
Second.
Correction.
Can we let hold on 1 second. Let Obsidian speak.
What
quick.
I was gonna say is, this is for Rob. Would it be fair if you ask the question again, and then everyone gets a chance to answer it, and then if you could, because the question is kind of general. So you said, do you mean do we believe in the out of Africa theory, or how do you want to, can you format the question so we have specifics?
Yeah.
Or do we believe in the video?
Right. So this prompted my original question I asked before. I'm not sure you were here. So I asked that, are we an African species, right? So what he stated in the very beginning is we are an African species. Everything started and the rest of the world was populated from the branch that left Africa. So that's what I'm asking. Does everyone believe in that right there?
You want us to answer now?
Yeah.
Oh.
That the rest of the world was populated by the branch that left Africa.
Not Native Americans.
Yeah.
So that was different. Wait. So
human beings, not Native Americans in particular. Human beings as a whole.
So wait. So hold on. So where did Native Americans come from?
Because Native Americans, Africans, Asians, Europeans are not a thing. We're talking about Homo sapiens. We're not talking about racial groups. So Homo sapiens. Did Homo sapiens originate out of Africa? Yes.
Oh, no. Yep.
Okay, but he also said it populated the whole world off the branch that left Africa. He literally stated that, and that's what I'm asking.
I'm not disputing.
Do you agree?
I'm not disputing that. I never have disagreed with that.
I agree.
So, but you just said except for Native Americans. You said except for Native Americans.
No, I'm
you
not.
just said
No,
that.
I did not say except for Native. Because when we're talking about this, we got to be very explicit. When we're talking about human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, when we're talking about Native American, Asian, European, African, these are racial terms. So we cannot use racial terms when we're talking about migration, human migration. When we're talking about Native Americans, when we got here, when we became who we became, that is something completely different than when we're talking about human migrations, Homo sapiens, leaving out of Africa and then branching out the rest of the world.
Okay, so here, let me rephrase my question, because the question I asked was everybody in agreement that the branch that left out of Africa, did they populate the whole world? And you said yes, except for Native Americans. I never said Native Americans. I said populate the world, and you said Native Americans.
Is that what I said, guys? No, what I said was I made it very clear. We're not talking about specific racial groups. We're not talking about Native Americans.
So you didn't say except for Native Americans. You didn't say that.
No, that's not exactly. See, everybody in the comments saying that's not what I said.
Holy shit. Then why would I stop you and ask you, what did you mean?
Because I specifically said, because I know what Nativemamaz was thinking. When she's thinking about Native Americans specifically. Did Native Americans originate out of Africa? No, Native Americans as a racial group did not originate out of Africa. But human beings, right, Nativemamaz? Human beings.
Human beings, okay. But not all, yeah, exactly.
So human beings, let me just make sure. Human beings, but not Native Americans, right?
Human beings. We didn't have races back then.
Okay, cool. But
we're different now. We're different from, all that. That's why, that's my point.
Yes, human beings came out of Africa, what we now call Africa, however you want to say it. If you want to say it in simplistic terms for everybody, came out of Africa and went to Asia, went to Europe, and went to the Americas and went to the islands.
Yeah.
Would it be safe to say that the current scientific consensus supports a shared African origin with diversification? So subsequently, we kept migrating, adapting, and then there's limited interbreeding with other hominin species, of course, and that's where BGP is correct. We did interbreed with other hominin species, but I think if we can all come to an agreement that the current scientific consensus is that we have a shared African origin, the out of Africa theory. If we can just start from there, and then we can move forward with the conversation.
Yeah, we're not talking about specific racial groups. We're talking about human beings in general. Human beings in general share an origin out of Africa and went all over the rest of the world. I'm not.
And then somebody in the comments, she's correct. She's saying the land was not Africa, it was just land. That's true, but what we now call Africa is the point of origin.
Yes.
I like to add that we have to stop using social constructs of today for people of yesterday.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, so now that we're beyond that, and everybody agrees that the origin of human beings comes out of Africa and they went out everywhere else, we're not disputing that. I'm not disputing that. I've never disputed that. I've never disputed the migrations. But what I'm saying is when we're talking about ancestry, they're not our ancestors. What they are relatives or people that share genetics with us. Because it's impossible.
Well, why would I say it? Y'all disputed it. When I say...
Because what I'm saying is that it's impossible for people 30,000 years ago to be our ancestors. That's impossible based off of genetic isopoint, like I just said. If Native Americans' ancestors are Asians, so are yours. Because we only go back to the genetic isopoint being 3,500 years ago.
No, my ancestors never left out of Africa.
Oh my God.
L2 haplogroup ancestors never left. The L3, just like we all agreed on, was a small group of Africans that left out, that populated the rest of the non-African world.
Okay.
But they weren't Africans.
Again, What I'm saying is you guys are
The
applying.
continent that we call Africa.
Okay, what I'm saying is when you're applying the terms ancestry, your ancestral groups, they're not our ancestors. They're everybody's ancestors. Everybody shares the same ancestors because we're all human beings. So you, Port City, you were not born 70,000 years ago. Your mitochondrial DNA is showing your ancestors from 70,000 years ago, not you.
I belong to a mitochondrial group of L2 that never left out of Africa.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is that you, sir.
Like, there's a misconception because a lot of black people think that all black people left out of Africa. That didn't happen.
So explain to me, if you got a black person that has mitochondrial group, haplogroup A, are they no longer African?
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
If a black person in America, a black American, an African American, has mitochondria, because I've actually seen a couple of people show their haplogroups, and they show A or B or C. Are they not African?
What's the subclade?
No.
You're giving parent haplogroups.
No, we're not.
No, you are giving
because you
parent
guys talk about-
haplogroups.
You guys talk about parent haplogroups for Native Americans, and now you want to talk about sub haplogroups.
Yes. No, because this is what it is, right? So the parent.
Native
Hold
American,
on.
you can't
Look,
go-
BGP,
you
stop.
can't
This is
apply
what's
one thing
happening.
to one group and one group to another.
Listen. The parent haplogroup, right? You have the parent one that started in a particular spot. The subclades come from that.
Right.
So you can't say that, oh, everybody has A. No, they have a particular subclade. Just like there's like you might say A2B, A23, A2 something.
C1,
Right.
B2.
C1B,
then why are you
C1
applying?
this.
So my question is, then why are you applying parent haplogroups to natives and not to other
Because
people?
those C1, so C1, 2, for example, C1, 2 comes from C. Where did C
Which
originate?
originated in East Asia 50,000 years ago. That's what I've been saying the whole time.
And this just stated that they cannot be our ancestors. These would be our ancestors,
You're combining two different things
ancestors. I'm not combining terms. Because genetic
So if it's
ancestry,
mtDNA is an unbroken chain, correct? And those are all your mothers, right? All the mothers, right?
but that's just one line.
I get that. It is one line, right? So
And
if
all
it's an
those
unbroken
lines-
chain, wait.
All
If
of
it's
those
an
lines
unbroken chain,
converge. All of those
if it's
lines
an
converge
unbroken
into-
line,
Yes, it's an unbroken line, but all of those
Right, so
lines
those are all
converge
women.
to each other. All
So
of
is
those
every
lines
single woman-
converge into each other at some point. That is what haplogroups are showing, that they all converge into each other at some point. They just branch off. That's all
Yes,
it's saying.
yes.
That's
So
called
that
a
means my
divergence.
ancestors
No,
and
a
your
divergence is
ancestors.
different. When a divergence is when populations split and move away. That's a divergence.
I didn't
So that's
say
what you're talking
diverge.
about.
I said converge.
Okay.
Everybody's mitochondrial line converges into one line. They all converge into L because that's the origin.
right?
All
So this
converge
is okay.
into that.
So look. So here, mitochondria. That's all the women in your line going up to a particular point, correct?
So remember when I talked about how mitochondrial DNA, like you guys said, it passes down mother to mother to mother to mother. I don't have any daughters. All I have is a son. My mitochondrial DNA passes to my son, but that's where it stops. If he gets married, hold on. If he gets married to somebody who is of African descent and their haplogroup says L, and they have a daughter, whose mitochondrial line are they going to get?
The mothers,
Okay, but they're not going to get mine, right?
correct?
Is my granddaughter still native?
Yes.
Okay, so the haplogroups aren't telling you who you are. The haplogroups are just saying that your mother's line converges here and goes to this haplogroup, and then that haplogroup had split off And before that, they all converge into each other. We all, as human
but there's
beings,
different ways.
Share the same ancestors as human beings because they all converge. So when we're talking about human beings alive right now, all of our ancestors only go back 3,500 years because it hits an iso point where the convergence happens. And then there's another convergence that happened. So all of these divergences or convergences, however you want to look at it, there's a line that happens, it diverges. It goes one way, it goes another way, it goes another way, but they all connect to the same line. Those lines then diverge off of each other, but they all still end up on the same line. My granddaughter, if they have a haplogroup that's L, they're still Native American. So you can't determine when you're talking to these pretendians, and this is where the problem is going to lie with you guys. Because if a pretendian has a haplogroup that says A, now they're going to claim Native American and not African.
No, that is incorrect. Because it can't be just A. It has to be a subclade that comes from America.
Right, it'll be A2 or something.
It won't be like the parent group. No, because there are certain subclades that are not in America.
Okay, if their
that come from A.
Okay, listen. If their subclade is X2X, what is their parent haplogroup?
X2X?
Whatever,
X.
I don't care. B12B, I don't care.
Yeah,
what is
you have to look at the phylogenetic tree. You would have to look at the phylogenetic tree. If it's B2, let's say for instance, like C1A, right? If that was the subclade that came from America, and someone has, and then C1, hold on, and C1B comes from Yugoslavia, right? If they say C1B, will that be a Native American? No, because it's a subclade that's in Yugoslavia.